That's the song. Hello. I have the microphone on a new stand today. So we're going to try something different because I keep going like this when the microphone's over here. Completely misusing the purpose of a microphone. So we're going to try something different today. Thank you for joining. Even after my self-proclaimed break from Rachel Hollis, I could not resist any longer because upon looking at her Instagram, trying to at least, I realized I was now blocked from Rachel Hollis's Instagram. And here's the proof. Okay, here's my Instagram. Let's clear all of that. Let's Rachel Hollis. That doesn't look like Rachel Hollis. And as many of you know, it's Miss Rachel Hollis. Uh-oh, unavailable. No longer allowed to see any of the juicy gossip. So, so for that, I say, I will not stop until the law comes after me, which I don't think they will. I think I'm playing it safe. I'm playing it safe. I ain't trying to get in trouble. But then again, I thought about it. I was like, why am I changing my behavior? I don't think I'm too mean. I don't think I'm nice, but I don't think I'm too mean. I don't think I make fun of her looks. I don't treat her like she treats Pam, and we're going to talk about that today. So, I'm trying to give myself a little bit of rebellious spirit and just going to go for it. So, yeah, that was my thoughts. Also, there was a pretty juicy episode on the podcast for Rachel. And juicy meaning it was not the vanilla episode that we got, vanilla yet uncontroversial episode that we got the other week, where she was like, the top 10 things that I do to make my life easier. I make coffee, but the night before, like, whoa. Amazing, mind-blowing information. So since there was a little bit more juicy topics, I was like, this might be a good time to bring back the Rachel and I was going to say Dave show. Maybe if we get to it, if I shut up sooner than later, we can get to Dave's podcast. I have not listened to that one. I saw on Reddit that it was kind of cringe, which shocker. However, I do have three new Dave soundbites. I will debut them as we go. The first one is the best one. Well, I shouldn't say that because now you're not going to stay. But the first one is a good one. You ready for it?
It's giving me life.
It's
giving me life.
That is from the infamous Show Up Summit, where Dave was gifting us with his presence on Heidi's Instagram because everyone knows Dave has been sorely missed on the interwebs. Okay, so without further ado, welcome. And we're gonna take a looky-see. We're gonna watch a little Rach talk, not the whole thing, because I am all about efficiency. Meanwhile, it has 4-hour live streams. Because she was a little bit meaner today. A little bit meaner than usual. That's not saying a whole lot because she's not super nice ever, but she let the God, I have bugs in the house. Okay, sorry. Take 2. She was just a little bit, I think, more outwardly mean today, which I find a little bit interesting. So let's go. So I'm starting intro. I'm not going to watch the whole montage. We're just going to skip right to it, okay? Here we go. Rach Talk, episode 10. Her biggest pet peeve, okay? Her adoring fans that are trying to compliment her is her biggest pet peeve. Ready? Go.
Having a little bit of a brand so people know who I am. Oh. You all versus extroverts. So we're okay, I think, is the point. The money tree's thriving. I got a Schnauzer t-shirt. Welcome to Rach Talk.
Oh, I lied. Okay. Forget everything I just said.
let's talk about introverts versus extroverts because clearly I'm an introvert. No, that's not true. I'm an extrovert. I'm the most extra of the extroverts.
No, you're not.
I love people. I love meeting people. I want to talk to you. I want to hang out with you.
Thanks, Penguin357. What she just said, that statement, she loves everyone, loves to hang out, is going to be completely decimated within 20 seconds.
Except there's one scenario I don't want to talk to you. I hate to even say this. I feel like people are going to be mean right now, and they're just going to be like, you're being mean. But there's only one scenario. Well, there's two. I thought of another one. The first has something to do with having like a little tiny bit of like a public persona, like having a little bit of a brand so people know who I am. You all would be shocked, and I mean shocked, at how many women will follow me into the bathroom and try and talk to me while I'm in, like, going in the stall or inside the stall. I already have a really weird thing with public restrooms. Like, I really don't want anybody hearing me pee. And if I have to do anything else in the bathroom, I'll just go die because I'm not.
I find this shocking because not only has she had several videos about her peeing episodes, peeing in her pants, totally fine. Everyone needs to know every detail about peeing your pants. And she often says, women who pee their pants, we all pee our pants. We have babies that come out of us. So therefore, instant peeing of pants. I've heard her say something along those lines multiple times. She just did a Rach talk like 2 episodes ago where she was peeing her pants on a zip line. So the fact that she doesn't want any people to hear her pee, I mean, that seems the more rational of the options. But it seems surprising given her track record of being so open about her peeing episodes. And I mean, what she's saying here is not out of line, of course. Yeah, I think that's pretty normal to be like, oh, I don't want people following me into the bathroom and, you know, trying to get all of my personal space. But yeah, it's a little bit like, okay, I get it, but they're also fans that like you, so maybe you should talk about them a little bit nicer, a little bit. That's a nitpick, but we'll continue.
Doing that in public. I want to talk to everybody. I want to give you hugs. I want to take pictures. I want to do whatever you need to do, but it is really hilarious. You would not even believe how many women will talk to me while I'm in the bathroom. Literally, I have had women knock on the stall. Rachel, I saw you go in there. I love your podcast, Rach. I love it. It has helped me so much. God bless you. I just wanted you to know. I'll wait for you out here. We'll get a picture when you're done. And I'm like, and I'm doing like, I'm holding the pee in because the second someone talked to me, I had to like freeze midstream, work all the Kegel muscles to like hold the pee inside my body because I'm like, oh my God. So that's a time when I don't really want to talk to strangers. And my second time has nothing to do with being any kind of anything.
Thank you, Abby. I'm glad the algorithm brought you here as well. Binging the videos. I'm sorry that this is a lot of content. And you're going to see a lot of repeating themes with this Rachel Hollis content. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate your super chat. Welcome to, someone said on my Instagram, they're like, oh, you should call your audience your downline. Which I thought was pretty funny. We call ourselves the Sob Gang because we choose sadness. So Sob Gang is kind of the word. So welcome to the Sob Gang. Hello to my downline. You can be in my downline. I thought that was just really funny. Anyways, I'm rambling now. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Abby B, welcome. Okay, so she doesn't like peeing. She apparently that was a Southern accent, which she no longer associates with Southern, I guess. She's no longer a Southern girl. That used to be her people. Now she's like making fun of them because they want to come into the bathroom. So yeah. Oh, I see someone's comment. Oh my God. Yeah, she's got a toilet thing. She's got an issue with. She's never used a public restroom before, so she saves it all to go home for the poor woman who has to clean her toilets twice a week. It's a rough life that Rachel's got. Okay. But yes, I agree. I see other people say they understand. Me too. I don't want to talk to anyone in the bathroom either. So if I ever see you in public and they're in the bathroom, I'm not there. This one, I think, is the more mean one. The bathroom one is like, okay, I get it. But this one, plain one, I'm kind of like, this is a little bit rude.
It's just like a life rule. I don't want to talk to you on a plane. Nothing to do. I mean, you're a stranger. You don't know me from Adam. Or I just don't want to talk to you on a plane. And because here's the issue. If you talk to your seatmate on a plane and they're a talker, you're locked in. I can't tell you to stop talking. I will get off an 8-hour flight and I know everything about your family, your daughter's divorce. I heard about the therapy that you went through 3.
Ironically, I know all these things about her. Not those specific things, but I literally know details about her life that I shouldn't know as a casual observer. Now, not so much casual, more studied researcher. But even back then, I knew like all her books are like her childhood onwards, autobiographical accounts of her daily life. So the person on the plane just wants to even the score. We've all had to listen, not had to, but we've all listened to your story, Rachel. Now listen to someone else's story for once. I hate it. I can only listen to my own podcast in my ears. Sorry. It's like, okay, relax, chill.
3 years ago that you're thinking about going back to school and getting your degree. I don't know how to tell people to stop, and I don't want to be rude. So I'm in it. I'm locked in, okay? So I can't even let you start. I can't even let you start a conversation because if you start, I feel compelled. We're in this now. We're in it together. I don't fly Southwest a lot, but one of the things I'm most terrified of with Southwest is that you don't have any control over where you sit. I will, if there is a person within a 100-mile radius of a Southwest flight who likes to talk to strangers.
I again think this is a dig at Dave, and I wish I had the book. I have it in the room. But Built Through Courage, he literally has a picture in the book of him and Dan Rather on a plane where Dave said that he talked to Dan Rather for hours while they flew. And that Dan was so graceful with his time. Well, he has really no choice because he's stuck in the airplane next to you, Dave. But maybe that's like a subtle dig at Dave. I think this whole week of Rachel's content is a little bit based on the sus oh my God, I was going to call it a sus concert. I don't know what the heck it is anymore now that it's over. The Show Up Summit. But again, as I'm saying this, these are recorded in advance. These Rach Talks, at least, I think are probably a month before, like they're shot a month in advance at least, is what it seems like. So who knows? Maybe this wasn't even on her mind at all. But it just seems mean. Like okay, I also don't like talking on planes. I have my hoodie on and I have headphones too, and now a mask, obviously. And I think people get the hint. And because she's such an extrovert, right? I don't think she's an extrovert at all whatsoever. But I'm such an extrovert. Wouldn't you want to talk even on a plane? I feel like, I don't know. I mean, this is such a stupid thing. Who cares? Like, but just the way she's talking about it, as if everyone just would want to talk to her and love to talk to her. It just seems like maybe, but how often does this happen to you? Maybe it happens a lot. I don't know. Go fly private then. You know? Follow Tony Robbins' advice and figure out a way. Manifest yourself to fly private. That's my suggestion, because why not?
There'll be 100 open seats on this plane. That girl's sitting. She's right here. I was flying back from Nashville, and this woman, bless her heart. I get it, because I'm on an aisle. You're in the center seat. If you're in the center seat, there's a lot. You're tucked in there, and I get it. Jack, she was touching my person, but my arm wasn't even on the armrest. It was I got a 2x2 square right here, or whatever this is. I'm in it. I shouldn't feel you. I shouldn't feel you in my space. I don't want your skin to touch my skin. I don't know who you are. I only know one way to handle this, and that is very visibly to wear headphones. Now, ladies or men with long hair, if you're going to try and pull this off, you got to pull the hair back. Because if it's like this and they can't see that you're wearing headphones, you're locked in that situation too. Because I even try and make a big deal about it. They'll be like, chatty, chat. And I'm like, I make a big deal about being like, oh, what? Oh, sorry, I was listening to music. And they're like, oh, no problem.
Does that sound so bitchy? I don't know. Like, again, like maybe I'm nitpicking here, but just like, oh, I'm sorry. I was listening to my boyfriend's band, who he's a tour manager for, Shawn Mendes. Sorry, I couldn't hear you over the noise of my personal friend, Shawn Mendes. Sorry. Just like, what? And also, what is the story? What does Rage talk about? What is it for? I thought this whole brand was supposed to be about helping women achieve their dreams, being a dream catcher, as she says. How am I benefiting? Am I just learning the lesson of if I see Rachel Hollis in public, I mean, not me, but other people who like her, ignore her because she might have music on and you don't want to disturb her because she gets very disturbed. So, but like, she's like, I love talking to people. I love it. Come say hi, come say hello to me, but not on a plane and not if you're near the bathroom, which, okay, fair rules, but I guess. But just the way she's saying it, as if everyone would love to just spend time talking to her. Because they should, because the way first of all, she tells everyone at the end of these shows, I love you and I'm rooting for you. Okay, so someone who genuinely loves you and roots for you would want to talk to you on a plane. Even for a minute of time. And she's like, oh, if you talk to me at all, then we're locked in for 8 hours. Says who? Who has 8 hours of talking time? Maybe 10 minutes? And you say, okay, I'm actually gonna listen to a movie or a book or whatever. Thank you. Like, I don't know, something. Figure it out. You're an adult. Like, let's go here. But instead we have to listen to this thing about how amazing she is and how crafty she is with her headphones. Like, okay, cool girl. And the thing about the plane seats, I don't know if she was trying to insinuate that the woman she was sitting next to was overweight or, bigger than her. I didn't quite understand, or if she was just saying that the woman was leaning over. But those seats are small. So, I mean, I'm saying I fly Frontier a lot. So, there you go. But I'm touching people no matter what I want. No matter what size we are. It's a child. I'm touching them with my elbow because there's nowhere to put your freaking elbows. So I don't know what her whole point there was. There was no point, as this whole Rach talk points are null and void, basically. But this whole thing is just kind of rude. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying, but there's so many better ways to say it. Moving on.
Here's my life story. Or I'll be, I'm sorry, I was listening to a really incredible podcast. I don't want to, what did you need? Was there something? I sound like a jerk. I'm not a jerk. I love making friends. We're in line at the grocery store. Let's go. You see me at my kid's baseball tournament, happy to chat. You want to talk to me at the spot, like whatever. But I don't want to talk to you on a flight. How do you feel about that, Jack?
Absolutely no talking on a flight. I can't hear you up there.
Right. It's so, we already talked about this. I can't hear you. And the people also, can we have a minute? Now I'm really going to go in. Now I'm really going to say something controversial. The people who have a very long discussion on flights. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like someone in front of you, let's say two business people, for example, and they want to talk about the mergers and acquisitions of the company or whatever for 4 hours. And the only way
Rachel can't hear in a restaurant, yet she can hear people in different aisles on the plane. I'm confused. Is your hearing good or bad? And now other people can't talk either? Like, relax. It just seems like I'm just going to bitch for 20 minutes and call it content. I mean, that's what I'm doing. But I'm not going to bitch for about 20 minutes about my own life on camera.
That you can do that is to raise your voice above the roar of the engine. And now I got to listen to you over Taylor Swift. I'm trying to listen to the Lover album, bro. I don't want to know about how Cheryl in accounting isn't living up to her last review. Do you know what I mean? Is it just me? Can you hear, when other people are having conversations, can you hear it? Or am I just, you know what my thing is?
No, everyone else is
I
deaf.
need to maybe watch more movies or something on planes. I read books. This is my problem. I'm over here reading or I'm writing. And in both scenarios, I can't have music. So I got to listen to, Matthew and Mark and Luke and John, talk about whatever's going on. Remember when I got this shirt though, Jack? Still over here, still killing it. Extroverts. Okay, here's a question for the group. Comment below, let me know. Are you an extrovert or are you an introvert?
Trying to gain her some engagement. Here you go. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? I need to know immediately. Leave a like in the chat because I'm an introvert. Leave a flower in the chat if you're an extrovert. Put a 1 if you're watching this on the replay. That's my MLM impression. Okay, we're gonna play it a little bit longer, and then when she starts talking about tacos or something, we're gonna cut it because boring.
Introvert. Or I think there are also like mixes of this, because I'm an extrovert. I love people and I love being around people, but I do have to go refuel. Like I know people who are extroverted and they get all of the energy from the people, and I love being in it, but I do have to like go retreat and get my energy back and then sort of come out and try again. But I am an extrovert and I am in love with an introvert, like a very deep introvert.
I feel like the very deep introvert is not true. Based on what it seems like, he has like 20, in another episode, she said he has like 500 friends or something ridiculous, 200 friends that would call him up or like that he would feel comfortable going to help or something. She told a whole, I remember, I have so much Rachel Hollis content, I don't remember which podcast it was, but there was something that she said that her boyfriend, hold on. I can't have this moment without having her say it herself.
My boyfriend, Boothing,
her boyfriend, has so many friends. He also goes to England, Europe, wherever, UK, and has other friends. All the people in the video of her jumping into the English Channel were his friends. So how is he a deeply introverted person? He's also a tour manager for a celebrity, so I doubt that he's introverted. I think he just doesn't like her, maybe, perhaps. Or she says she talks so incessantly and he's so quiet. I think he's just maybe not interested. I don't know. That's been my theory for a while, that he's looking for a way to break up with her, only because, and I don't say that as a drama tea, like, oh, I have some sort of gossip, but just based on her own accounts of how he treats her, he doesn't ask her questions about her life. He, wrote her a poem, but it was about her hair. He didn't want her to cut her hair. Now she's cut her hair. He's gone for, weeks at a time, which is not a deal breaker or red flag necessarily, but just something of note. And, and also there was something else that he said. There was another red flag. I don't know. Whatever. It just doesn't, there's none on any of his Instagram, whatever, social media, there's no mention of her at all. There's no pictures, there's no nothing. It's like a secret. And I think there's a rule that she's not allowed to say his name on the show because he's tagged in her photos on Instagram. So it's not like, oh, they're keeping it a secret. So that's my theory. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but she's about to bring him up in a second. Or she just did bring him up, but whatever.
And it is hilarious. And when we were first dating, we're going to find the video and like maybe if we like put the name of the artist or whatever, we could share it. It's so funny. But it is a perfect cartoon of what it's like to be an extrovert and an introvert in a relationship.
I did not understand this at all. You're being taken for a ride?
I'm curious. What it would be like to be like if because you're an introvert, and then is your boyfriend an introvert?
He's an extrovert.
Okay, so how about you? You're an introvert. Is Sarah an introvert?
She just tells people who they
Okay,
are.
so you're both
You're an
introverts.
introvert?
What's that like?
You quiet
Just like,
ass?
Oh, God.
chill. You don't leave the house. You don't talk to anybody. Yeah, I mean, that sounds glorious, honestly.
Also, Miss Eco-Friendly over here, drinking a plastic well, I guess it could be reusable a couple times, but looks very fresh from the store. Rach? Where's your thrifted cups?
So I'm an extrovert, but I'm a homebody. Like I would it's got to be something massive for me to want to leave home. And by massive, I mean there is a fajita restaurant here in Austin.
Okay, that was about it of the wonderfully interesting Rach talk this week. I don't think there was anything else great in there. She talks about some other stuff. Oh, one last thing I'll say about Rach Talk. I forgot to mention it at the top. Do we like this subtle guitar in the background, just bringing out those musical vibes? Because now we know she's a singer-songwriter, or not singer necessarily. She's trying to write songs. And she played it off in the podcast about, oh, well, I've written all sorts of things. I wrote fiction, nonfiction. Now I'm going to write songs. So trying to make it seem like, oh, this is something I've always been interested in, as opposed to, oh, my boyfriend's in the music industry. That's why I'm suddenly switching my interest over. Let me think. Let me just make sure there's nothing exciting. She's talking about fajitas, forever.
Bro, we got...
She likes the word bro, because even today she called Russell Brunson brother, which I thought was interesting. I could bring that up. Well, I can't bring it up because I don't have her on Instagram anymore.
I know my weaknesses. Strengths.
Oh, okay, wait.
So you edit out a lot of so.
I lied. We're going to go back to Rach Talk because she's going to talk about her strengths and weaknesses, which I thought was pretty telling.
So at least I know. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. Strengths. Gorgeous. Funny. Good writer. Good mom. Humble. Weaknesses. It was cold water, but I've stopped with that, so that's good. Sort of.
So her strengths are that she's beautiful, great mom, great writer, this, and this. Weaknesses was cold water, but she's accomplished that now. So, she ain't got no weaknesses. And then later on, she goes to say, of course I have weaknesses. Everyone has weaknesses. But then doesn't list them at all. So we're just supposed to assume what they are. Or we can, I guess it's up to our analysis on this channel to decide what they are, I suppose.
On this subject, but also like kind of on a more serious note, I saw this quote the other day from Mindy Kaling.
Oh yeah, this is a little odd too.
What, you're a fan of Mindy Kaling? I saw this quote from Mindy Kaling the other day where she was talking about like how there's people who don't like her because they say that.
Thanks, James Wojak. Thank you for being here. And for that, I will reveal the second new audio.
I will slowly buy you a boat.
Thanks, Dave. He will slowly buy us a boat. Thank you, James. Okay, here's a quote by Mindy Kaling. So people just aren't used to Rachel's behavior and actions because they're not used to a woman that doesn't hate herself. That's what it is. It's all a misunderstanding.
Full of herself, and she's like, I'm not full of myself. I just don't hate myself. And I think that it's really hard for people to look at women who love themselves and are confident in themselves and not decide that they dislike them. Totally miss you. Put the actual real quote. Please find it. But I thought it was such a good quote because I think that that's how we're mostly taught to be, is we're taught to find fault with ourselves. We're taught like our body's this, our body's that, our face is this. We're all of these things. We're not smart enough. We're not strong enough, whatever. And we just keep perpetuating the cycle. And then we give that to every new generation of young women. And they're taught that to be confident is to be wrong. And I'm being silly about saying like, here are my strengths and I have no weaknesses. Obviously I have many. But I've been working on that a lot in the last 6 months of just like, I love and accept myself as I am, not as an affirmation or something cheesy, but like the amount of times I swear my hand to the heavens. I looked in the mirror today and I was like, girl, your butt, okay, but your butt is looking good. Like, I see the yoga in that butt. I see good for you.
I feel like that's missing the point. I'm glad she likes her butt. I'm glad that yoga is, helping her. But I don't think saying that you like the way your butt looks because you've been exercising is exactly the point of loving yourself, irregardless or regardless of what's going on, what your outer shell looks like. I think that's the point of the quote. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's what it's supposed to be. SJB, wow, thank you so much. Okay, let's see what you said. I'm a tarot card reader and an energy healer. Yikes, I promise we aren't all bad. And also, my husband is British from overseas. Mine has an accent though. And with that, I don't love you. Thank you, SJB. You know, we'll have to have a chat about energy healing and tarot reading. I'm okay with. Energy healing, I need some more information. I need some citations needed. Tarot reading's okay because I feel like there's a deck of cards, there's 50 outcomes or whatever, and it's your interpretation of it. That's fine if you go into it with a logical mindset. And my cat's name is Tarot, so therefore I am on board. The energy stuff, you're gonna have to talk me into it. But thank you very much for that, and we can all ponder
What happened to dinosaurs?
the rest of the show. Okay, and back to Rachel talking about her physical attributes that she has worked out to feel good about.
Congratulations with your butt. Now my butt, I got junk in the trunk. I got an ass that won't quit. I got... When I was in high school, I used to get teased about how big my butt was, and I was so embarrassed by it, and I'm sort of like a pear shape. I got more going on down here than up here.
She's so strong to be able to admit that she has a big butt. You know, that's such a hard thing. She got teased in high school back in 1995. It's been rough.
Even with the doctor's help. But I do think that that's a really powerful thing to ask yourself, especially with so many women and young girls watching this show, is, are you saying more things about yourself that are negative, or are you saying more things about yourself that are positive?
Positive.
Because my gut is that you're probably thinking a lot of things about you, and maybe even sometimes audibly saying things about yourself that are discouraging. And if that worked, if you could shame yourself into the place that you idealize as better, it would have worked by now.
Oh, okay.
It's not possible to hate yourself.
Yeah, she definitely came up with that concept. Yeah, that's a Rachel Hollis original right there. Okay, we're going to Pam very shortly, but I have it pulled up. Here's a great segue, and we're going to talk about this again, but okay, here's the one paragraph. Or what if a friend from work was constantly starting something new? Every 3 Mondays, she announced a new diet or goal, and then 2 weeks later, it just ended? What if you called her on it, like, hey, Pam, I thought you were doing Whole30. Meanwhile, Pam is sitting in the break room eating a meat lover's pizza and telling you that she was doing Whole30, and even though it made her feel great, 2 weeks into the program, her son had a birthday party, and she couldn't resist the cake, and then figured there's no point. Now she's gained back the pounds she lost plus a few extra. Y'all, would you respect her? Yeah. I have seen no reason for disrespect at this point. This woman who starts and stops over and over again, would you count on Pam or the friend who keeps blowing you off for stupid reasons? Would you trust them when they committed to something? Would you believe them when they committed to you? No. So if I was to read that as a teenager and think, dang, you know, I did start Atkins and I did start Slim Fast and I failed, I never lost the weight. Oh my God, I hate myself. Now Rachel's questioning, why do women just do this? Like, why do you say such negative things about yourself? Well, because we read stupid books like this 5 years ago. That's why. There's a lot of this, like, she's changed her tune in today's episode. Just gear up, get ready.
Into something better. So what if we tried radically loving ourselves? What if we tried just accepting who we are? Not only that, but just falling in love with ourselves right now as we are. With this exact body, with these age spots, with these thighs, with this cellulite, with whatever you're working with. Mini schnauzer and all. Right, Jeff? Just work on loving yourself. I've told this story before, but
everything she lists is physical attributes too. It's like not everyone's struggling to love themselves as much as probably Rachel struggles if she's gained weight or whatever. And I'll find the clip too in a minute or I can just tell you the clip, that she and Dave are watching, or they were talking about their marriage advice, ironically, and they looked at a picture. They brought up a picture of themselves, you know, probably 20 pounds heavier than she is here. And she's like, oh my God, we were so ugly back then. It looked like I was stung by 1,000 bees because she was bloated in her opinion. So yeah, it might be harder for her. And I struggle with this too. I'm not saying I don't struggle with this every single day. However, for her to go and give advice to other women of how like, oh, I don't even understand why other women don't love themselves. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, my booty's so great. But she's the one in the past that is like, well, now that she's thin, she can love herself. If she gained weight, that goes away, I think, is what she's basically saying, which is not the case for every woman. It's the society at large that hates it when other women mostly, I don't think men, I don't get the same treatment, I don't think, but when other women don't want to lose weight, that seems to be the big problem now, is people not understanding, like, why don't you want to lose weight? Because other people are fine with where they're at. So that's the whole breakdown of that.
When I was really struggling with body issues after the birth of one of my children, I challenged myself that every single time I looked in the mirror, I would find something to compliment. And the very first time, I just honestly hated myself. I hated my body. I was so hard on myself and so mean to myself. And I stood in the mirror until I found one thing. And the one thing I could compliment was my eyes. And then slowly over time, I could find more and more things to love. We just put contingencies on it, right? We're like, well, if I had a flat stomach, or if I had six-pack abs, or if I had arms that look like this, then I would be happy. Then I would have worth. Then I would love myself. But the truth is,
if I finish Whole 30, then I could be relied upon by my friends and family. I don't see the difference. Because she's talking about losing weight, so it's very closely related, I think.
Don't love yourself as you are today. It doesn't matter what changes you make. There's always going to be something that you perceive as wrong. So let's practice that together. And I have no idea how I got there from fajitas, but that's how my brain works.
Okay, I don't think there's anything else.
So if you haven't ever heard me talk about it before, I have a hotline. It was
Okay, yeah, I don't want to hear the hotline. Hotline bling, I don't want to hear you sing. Only me sing. Okay, let's go to the podcast. I, again, will say that I have took out the boring stuff in the beginning, but then again, I lied basically last time because it didn't start the right part. Okay, so, hi y'all. It's Rachel. It's somebody asked a question. So they're asking her about, and this is, I think the question that she asked was a good question, but that the viewer person that sent in the question, but I don't think Rachel answered it in any sort of way that is helpful. And the question she'll say is, well, how do you know your gut instinct versus like a limiting belief? And that's something I think of all the time when I hear these gurus talking about this. They're like, oh my God, you listen to your heart. It'll tell you what's right. But then it's like, no, that's limiting belief. But they're both coming from your brain, right? Or your heart chakra, whatever. So I feel like that's a legitimate question, but there's no good answer because there's no way to tell or discern other than like whatever you think or whatever's good for you or bad for you, do that. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly. But she doesn't answer the question. She just basically talks about how great she is and how she's never made mistakes before and her boyfriend loves her so much, and it goes on and on and on. So we're going to play that now. I'm going to mute myself a little bit because we're by we, I mean not me. Steven is loading in LaCroix into the fridge as we speak, so I'm going to mute myself for a second while he does that.
Welcome to another episode of the Rachel Hollis podcast. I was thinking the other day, I was like, do you remember, maybe this still exists, but I don't know who watches cable TV anymore besides like my Aunt Linda. Do you remember when shows, like morning shows or afternoon shows, they had like a theme song? Remember when Oprah would change her theme song every few years. Those of you who are old enough who were sort of Oprah babies like I was, where you came home after school and you watched an episode of Oprah. I was thinking about that yesterday, that like these shows used to have theme songs and many of them are still stuck in my head, even kind of obscure, random daytime talk shows. Like I still to this day, I think the show was on for like 2 years. There was a morning show called The Mike and Molly Show. do you guys remember? There's no way. It's like I got to be the only person on the planet who remembers the Mike and Molly show, but I remember their theme song, which was like, "It's a morning and grab a cup of coffee. It's time to watch the Mike and Molly show. The Mike and Molly show." I mean, wow. It's like I can't remember important facts, but I can still remember theme songs from shows in like 1992 when I would stay home sick from school. The point is, I was like, man, I need to write myself a theme song. So instead of having any kind of intro, it'll just be some fun, dorky song that I wrote on a ukulele. And in case you're wondering, I don't know how to play a ukulele, but I would figure it out for something this important. So welcome to another episode of the show. I love today's topic because it is a question I got from y'all. Or more specifically, this is a question I got from Stephanie in Ohio. She called into the hotline to ask this one. And I always give people the option. It says on the
I don't buy it that this person actually called in because she said, oh, soccer mom's from Ohio before when she was talking to Tony Robbins. So it's too convenient that she would now have a seemingly soccer mom from Ohio asking this question. So I think this is a question that she's wanted to answer because she's all about intuition and that stuff now. So I think she's trying to get these questions answered herself. But I think the question's a good one. I just don't think she answered it right. Anyways. A bid adieu to myself.
recording, like you can tell us if you want us to play your voicemail, which I love. So if you guys don't mind, like let me play the voicemail because I think it's really powerful to hear your voices. But Stephanie said she didn't want her voice played. She just wanted this question answered. And it's a great question. So I want to dig into it today, which is how do you grow your intuition? Stephanie's like, she's like, I'm trying really hard to listen to my gut and like my inner knowing, but I feel like I'm constantly second guessing myself. And I'm debating, or I start to kind of spiral out in my head because I think I'm making the wrong decision. She says, how do I know the difference between like what's my gut and what's my head? Which is a great question. It's a really good question, especially because if you ever listened to the interview I did with my friend Kimberly, so Kimberly is someone that I was working with who ended up becoming a friend of mine, but she's an energy healer. And hopefully you guys have listened to that episode. If not, go back and check it out. But Kim.
SJB, close your ears. They're talking about energy healing. And I'm most likely going to say something because this Kimberly person I've talked about previously before, thank you. She does a lot of her energy healing. Aha! It's come on delivery. Thank you. She does it through Zoom, which I find to be surprising that you can heal energy from the computer. But also, it's pretty expensive in my for me, it's like a couple $100 for like an hour. And she also says on her website, this Kimberly person, that it's like 10 years of therapy in 1 hour, which is just garbage. So this is who she's talking about. This is a person that spoke at Rise.
Did this episode, and then incredibly, because you guys are the best, so many listeners became clients of Kimberly's because she can do her energy work from anywhere in the world. She can do it on Zoom. Women from all over the world started working with her, which is amazing and has been incredible and life-changing for her in all the best ways. But one of the things she told me, she's like, man, there is such a theme that I am seeing in the women who I'm working with because of your show. And I was like, oh my gosh, do tell. Like, tell me, what are you seeing? And Kim says they really are struggling with trusting themselves. They're really having a hard time trusting their gut, trusting their intuition, trusting the connection to self, all of it. They're really having a hard time. And I guess I want to start there because Stephanie from Ohio, I want you to know that you're not alone. I think that we're told that women, especially, that we are supposed to have this deep, like we were born with it, intuition that guides us. And that is 100% the truth. You are supposed to have that. But it's not your fault that you don't. Most of us, like most of us, from the time...
Not me, but most of y'all.
Little girls have been told that someone else knows best. We've been told to trust a voice of authority over our own inner knowing, right? We grow up and like daddy knows best, or mama knows best, or the church knows best, or anybody who's older than me knows best, or teachers, or it's very rare that women especially are raised to understand their inner knowing and that they can trust that part of themselves. And, I love the reminder as for anybody who's on a spiritual journey and is trying to understand their spirituality in bigger ways, especially for those of you who grew up in the church or are very much inside the church. I think that there is this conflict, this unfair conflict that happens where people can get their feathers ruffled when we talk about this idea of trusting yourself, because so many people inside of faith are taught that God knows best and they're supposed to listen to God. But I don't think that there's a difference between that gut feeling. I think that is God. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. I believe that all these things are the same. I believe, be still and know that I am. To hear the still small voice inside you, that is something I've had since I was little. Not to get too far down a rabbit hole with y'all, but that intuition, that is the voice of our Creator, it's all one and the same. My inner knowing, I think, comes from something much greater than me, but it is me because God is in us. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like some theologians are gonna be like, that's okay. You don't have to vibe with exactly what I'm saying. But I personally don't think that there's any disconnect between like listening to the voice of your Creator that is also in you. I think that they are one and the same. And I think that the more aligned we are with ourselves, the more aligned we are with the universe and creation and God and everything greater than us. And I really would...
I don't really have much to say on this. I don't know. I've never been inside of a church, as they would say, so deeply. I was raised Catholic, I suppose, but I didn't, I never felt super indoctrinated into the teachings or lessons. It was more of a casual experience. So I can't really speak to any of this. If it is making sense to you, please, by all means, let me know. But okay, so she's saying, and then she's going to go on to talking about the gender of God, which is sort of interesting. And I also don't really have any amazing thoughts to share other than these concepts. Like if it's you versus an inner being, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. And the thing that bothers me about what she's saying though is like she's very much pushing it. Women mostly do this, or lots of people do this, but she doesn't speak from herself as to where she lands on this conversation, which I find to be disappointing because, okay, so what's your perspective? You're not a historian, you're a podcaster who gives their opinion. So if you're not speaking from your opinion, what's the point of bringing it up? That, sometimes people are afraid to listen to themselves because they are supposed to listen to God, but God is in you and it's like, I don't know. It's a little confusing for me.
Caution you to challenge anyone who tells you that you can't trust yourself. Oh, well, I have to trust God. Well, okay, the problem is not in trusting God. The problem is that for so many of us, God is interpreted through the lens of a church, a pastor, which is usually, not saying always, but usually is the voice of a man who maybe has absolutely no idea what's going on in your life. So someone stands on, stage every Sunday and preaches to you, and that sort of becomes the filter for what God is.
Okay, so now she's not trashing the church, but she's kind of talking down about the church. Okay, interesting, but I think she should then come out, since she was very strongly Christian previously, that she should now explain her journey even a tiny little bit, just to give context to what type of person is giving this advice. Are you no longer Christian? Are you only spiritual now? Like, that's what it seems like, which is totally fine, but I feel like we're missing the explanation there for that. And now she's saying, like, men are the preachers and they don't understand what's going on in your life. It's like, yeah, neither do you, Rachel. You don't even want to hear someone tell you on a plane about their life. You don't understand what's going on in these women's lives that you've been giving advice to for years. You don't understand any one of your podcast viewers. You call them a soccer mom in Ohio. That's not a real personality. So that what she's describing, all she's doing is saying, well, the men don't understand, but you yourself, Rachel, don't understand either. As a motivational speaker talking to women on a big stage, very similar, and she doesn't seem to connect the dots. Like, oh, I'm actually doing this too.
There's a quote, and I don't know why I can't find who said it, but there's a great quote that I'm going to paraphrase right now, which essentially says that when you make God a man, you make man God. Meaning, if every image that you've been given throughout your life is the image of God as a man, which, like, all respect, so much respect. God is there's no gender to God. If you believe that the creators of the heavens and the earth, the most powerful, the all-knowing, the I am, the alpha and the omega, that is a gender, something is wrong. It's why when I'm talking about God, I will use the pronoun her, I will use she, because it doesn't make a difference, right? God is neither. So if it doesn't matter, then I'm going to go ahead and say she and her, because why not? The reason that I'm starting here, because you're like, wait, we're trying to figure out how to trust our intuition. Why are you talking about God and gender and all? Because there is a disconnect between women believing that they have a right to trust themselves because they have been taught to trust authority that was man. So if men know best, if daddy knows best, if they know best, of course, it's hard for you to trust your own thoughts, your own words, especially.
So by this logic, every man trusts himself inherently. They have no intuition, but they have no problem inherently trusting themselves because God is made in their image. And also, just a side note, not really what she's saying, but she's saying like, well, God was gendered to being male. That's why they're supposed to be like, God is man and man is the most powerful as opposed to women. Okay, so we could also put that argument as to why Jesus looks white in photos when very clearly he lived in the Middle East in times long ago. So are we trying to say, are we acknowledging that part of it? I mean, I'm not saying that she has to, but I think our group should acknowledge that, yes, if humans made God's image a white male, or Jesus at least, a white male, maybe there's some reason behind that deals with power. And that's what she's saying right now. But she's not going deep into it. She's kind of saying men are the problem, which I find to be problematic. I don't think men are the root of all problems in women's lives. They could be the root of some of them. I think men affect other men and women affect men, and there's people who are they and non-binary, they affect other people. So just to blame men for all of our issues is not my preferred route.
Yeah.
And also, this is such a rambling. It's like, get to the point already. This is hurting my intuition. This is not grow. It's dying, killing my intuition, as she would say. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Some of us had amazing parents, incredible upbringings, were given guidance and wisdom and told that we had worth and value, but many of us didn't. Many of us were not told those things. We were told that little girls should be seen and not heard. We were taught that our value was in the way that we looked. We were taught that to be worthy, we should be thin, we should be pretty, we should be pleasing, we should find a man who wanted to marry us, we should be a mother. All of those things are so twisted because they get put on us from the time that we were little. If you choose to marry a man, if you choose to have children, that's incredible. But we can't make sweeping generalizations about every single woman or what it means to be a woman or how women show up. And from the time we're little, we're told and taught all of these things that get us further and further away from ever asking the question about what we think. What do we think is right? What do we think is best? And this doesn't just happen in religion or gender. This happens in the way that we're taught to approach our bodies and body image. I mean, raise your hand if you grew up and you had already tried some kind of diet by the time you were 13 years old. By 13 years old, I already knew about all kinds of diets. I had already tried diets. I had done different things because I saw my moms and my aunts and my big sisters doing those as well, right? Now, again, think of diet culture for a minute. Most women, at least here in the US, are raised from a very early age to worship at the idol of thinness. It's a
I was hoping for some accountability in the next section here, that she was going to then say, and I was guilty of this too. And even in my book, I mean, I didn't really think she would say that, but I was hoping, in my books, I had even written things about Pam, that she was unreliable as a narrator because she didn't stick to a diet because her son had a birthday, for God's sakes. But she doesn't go there. She blames it in a vague, outwardly external from her way, which I don't think is quite accurate, quite fair for her to do all the time. Unless it's something good and positive, it's, oh, I. But if it's something that's controversial or something that she's maybe misstepped on before, it's like, women really have issues with diet culture. Not myself. I mean, she's saying she did when she was younger, but she always does that. Oh, I had a problem with this when I was 10. When I was 20, I had a problem. Last year, I had a problem. It's never in the present moment, ever, that she's dealing with something, ever.
In this country, this pursuit of being thin. Being thin means you're pretty. Being thin means you are strong and smart and better than other people. Like, it's crazy. And
how is it crazy? I just read it a minute ago about how Pam, the woman in your office, because she cannot stick to the Whole30 diet, you cannot rely on her. She's irresponsible. That's a personality trait that you've put on her because she doesn't want to stick to a diet that's probably not going to work long term and may be unhealthy in some way. I don't know what the diet is. I've never done it, but I can imagine that any diet where you're restricting yourself probably is not sustainable long term. So she's the one who's perpetuated this stuff to millions of women. She's one of the many, yes. And Heidi, who I think she's kind of insinuating here, is part of that culture. Yes, they both do it in different ways, but still, problematic. Oh. Lisa Hoyser, hello. Oh, we're using lemons? Okay, for that lemon, let's ask Rachel. Let's just consult Rachel for a second if she's regretting any of this podcast so far.
I don't regret anything.
Okay, just checking. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Text of chasing a certain body image comes 10,000 different messages that are all conflicting with each other about what it will take to be this ideal person, right? Maybe you should do keto. Maybe you should do Atkins. Maybe you should do South Beach or Slim Fast or Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig. There's so many different mixed messages. Carbs are bad. Carbs are good. Protein's good. Don't have trans fat. Well, some fat's good. Think of how many mixed messages you've been given in a single category. You have learned over and over and over that you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted with food. You can't be trusted with knowing what's best for your spirituality. You can't be trusted with your body. You can't be.
You wrote a chapter about this. This was your idea. This was not society's idea. And if it's society's idea, you took it and plagiarized it. So just a little bit of accountability would be nice.
You can't be trusted.
No. Okay, here goes
Too much. .com. Hard to confuse you.
Excuse me.
There's so many things confusing you, which, by the way, just to go off on a little tangent about this for a minute, anything that is working that hard to confuse you, there's a reason. Because if you are confused, you will continue to spend money to try and solve the problem. Let me say it again.
I don't know who her audience is anymore because it's just, this is her whole brand. She had an fitness app, Rise app, where you could go and work out on the app. She's talked about dieting. She's talked about losing weight, feeling good at, even recently she talked to the people from the Skinny Confidential podcast about how, it's not talked about enough that women are uncomfortable with their baby weight. That people should be allowed to complain about gaining weight, having a baby, as opposed to being told, just be positive or whatever. Which I was like, I don't get it. I'm confused as to where your stance is on this. And she's like, oh, people will just throw money at problems. It's like, yeah, every one of your fans, including myself, have problems that we are seeking out self-help to fix. So this is the industry you love and are a part of. You're literally at a conference right now. She's at Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels mastermind or whatever, You don't think those people have issues that are throwing money at this random internet guru that you're speaking at? That's exactly what's happening today, this minute. So the fact that she's telling this from an outsider's perspective is so ridiculous.
People in the back, if you are confused about something, you will continue to spend money to try and figure out what the solution is to your problem. Because God forbid you should learn to trust yourself and your intuition when it comes to anything. Because trusting yourself and intuition is not going to make anybody else more money. If you don't trust yourself, if you feel confused, that's when you'll spend money to figure it out. That's why the diet industry is billions and billions and billions of dollars are spent every year by people.
Billions, okay, self-help industry is like 20 billion, so... And you were in the diet industry, the health and fitness, you were dying literally to get into it, to break into that market. But you didn't, it failed, the app failed, so it seems. So now you're gonna hate on it from the outside because, it didn't work for me, I couldn't get into it. So now, my ex-husband's girlfriend's in it. Bad industry. Not like the self-help industry, which is amazing and problem-free. Okay.
Confused and don't trust themselves, and so they look to experts, right? And there's nothing wrong with going out and finding information. The problem is that when that diet doesn't work, that book doesn't get you there, that exercise program falls off. I'm just using health as one example in your life. But when it doesn't work, you don't blame the diet. You blame yourself. You have just another piece of evidence to tell you why you can't be trusted. So Steph,
What about Pam? What about Pam? Pam trusted herself, but you didn't trust Pam because she didn't stick to the diet. Her intuition was, I want to have cake at my son's birthday. That was her intuition, and you judged her for it. Am I missing something? Am I missing some miraculous change that's happened that she's come to, that she's announced? Because I don't recall her making such a left turn switch from shame is the best way, shame yourself into everything, shame yourself, no one's gonna pick you up and make your bed, you better do it for yourself, to this, experts don't know anything, just believe in yourself. It's like, aren't you an expert? What are you? What is this podcast?
No, it's no wonder that when you make a decision that you believe is from your inner knowing, you second guess yourself and you confuse yourself so much that you stop doing anything altogether and you stay stuck. So this conversation today are some steps that I think that you can take to get in closer alignment with that inner voice, that inner knowing, and that you can learn to trust yourself, that you can learn to trust your gut, and that because you know you can trust your gut, you'll understand when it's your truth and when it's just like your brain, your sort of lizard brain freaking out and telling you that you must be wrong.
How do you decipher that? They sound exactly the same. No guru will tell you the difference because there is no way to tell. It's just whatever outcome works out better. They're like, oh yeah, that was your intuition. It's like, well, it could have also been my limiting belief, my lizard brain too, but it just didn't, the outcome didn't end well. So that's why we're saying that it worked out.
Okay, so that's the intention today.
Okay.
Woo! Fired up. It's the morning, I'm already fired up. I wrote yesterday because I was prepping. Oh gosh, I got this far away. I was prepping for this yesterday and I wrote all sorts of ideas down, but this morning I thought of one that I feel like supersedes the other 5. And I would like to start with this idea because it's a little bit off topic of intuition or trust. Just let me set this up. I am very decisive. Me, your girlfriend Rach, so decisive, meaning I make a decision and I go. And I've been like that as long as I can remember. And I've been like that because it took me a while to learn to trust my intuition, but I have always trusted that I would figure it out no matter what it is. I think that one of the biggest fatal flaws for people in the world that keeps them stuck, that keeps them from achieving their goals and dreams, is that they believe there is a perfect right answer, a perfect right road, the exact way that they should head, and that if only they can figure out what that is, then their life will work out okay. And I do not believe that. So let's just start right there. I don't believe that there is a perfect answer. I don't.
She literally gave 10 steps to having a better life or something. I mean, that wasn't it. It was like 10 things that make my life easier or something. But if you don't believe that, then why are you leaving self-help? I guess that's what she's saying, maybe. Maybe this is her thing, her sign off. Like, I'm leaving self-help. I don't believe in the industry anymore, but I'm not going to trash it just in case I want to go back. And going to becoming a musician or something. Like, I would like her more if she did that, obviously, because it's one less voice in the self-help void. But yeah, if people are just going to believe in themselves without the guidance of these gurus, what's the point of having this podcast, Rachel? Like, let's just cut it off. Like, make this your last one and just say, okay, like, I learned my lesson. This isn't good for humanity, and I'm leaving. But instead, just blaming it on this other, I don't know, like mysterious other that does all these harmful things that are outside of her own company and beliefs.
That there's an exact road to head. I believe there's a direction, and that when I start out in that direction, no matter what I choose, no matter what, even when it's the perfect way, even when it is aligned for my greater good, for my evolvement as a human, for me to achieve the dream that I have in mind, even then I'm going to come up against obstacles, roadblocks, things that are hard. Like, that's going to happen no matter what. People get stuck in analysis paralysis, where they are frozen because they're trying to analyze everything to see what the perfect solution is, thinking that if they choose the perfect solution, then it won't be hard. Sister, it is going to be hard no matter what you do. So stop staying here. Just freaking do something. I have absolute faith that no matter what, I'll figure it out, right? Like, you move to a city, you're like, I've always wanted to move to a new city, so I'm going to move to a new city. But, oh my God, what if this? What if that? What if I don't make any friends? What if I hate it? What if the kids hate it? Okay, then you move again. Like,
you know, this advice I think works if you're a middle-class white woman or middle-class or up person, you know, Disney executive husband, works fine. If you move to California and you don't like it, move back to Austin or vice versa. If you move, to New York City and it doesn't work out, just go back home and live with your parents for a little bit. It completely erases people who, I think for myself, like, I haven't moved in like over 10 years because I feel like if I move and it's a mistake and I don't like it, it's going to cost a whole lot of money to then now go backwards or to move somewhere else. And I've saved money to be able to move successfully, and first, last, deposit, car, U-Haul, all the stuff it takes to move across the country. The reason why people struggle to make choices is because there's so much on the line for people. Some people make a mistake, they move somewhere, that's it. If you want to move back, you're not going to have a house anymore, or you're not going to have a car, or you're not going to have any savings in case an emergency happens. Like, if you want to move and there's a medical emergency, you got to pick one, and you're going to pick medical emergency, obviously. So I get what she's saying, but it only really applies to people who have financial stability in place. If someone's totally financially stable and afraid, that's one thing. But clarify that. Don't just say everyone's going to be fine, because that's not true. Why do people end up homeless? Because something happened, or they made a mistake along the way, and now they've lost that stability. That's how it happens. So she speaks from an ignorant place, I think.
Guys, everything is not a zero-sum game, right? Like, it doesn't mean that this is the right answer and this is the wrong one. Everything can work out, will work out. So long as you believe that's true, everything's working for you. So if that's the case, even if you sort of take a detour that didn't work, okay, cool. We get.
Until it doesn't. That's the thing. And I've always asked this when I was into spirituality, and I would ask the gurus I was around, or the people, the coaches and stuff, and I would say, well, if everything's working out for us all the time, how do people end up homeless? Or why do people die the way that they do? And it's just an earnest, honest question, and people will get mad. Like, how dare you question the teachings? And it's like, but okay, so just because I know about this knowledge, that if I didn't know about it, then it wouldn't work for me. But if it's universal law, doesn't it work out for everyone? Like, it's a survivor's bias. Like, you think because it worked out for you, it's going to work out for everyone. But there's people who end up in horrible situations all the time. So what about them? Like, explain that. They just deserve it? That's how it seems to me. Like, somehow they deserve it. And people do say that, like, well, they must have been bad in a past life, or they must have been bad in their life. They made choices that made them this way. It's like, fuck you, you know?
Really confused, I think, about how much time we have, right? We think, I gotta hurry up, I gotta hustle, I gotta do this now. And I 100% had this. Pre-COVID, I didn't even realize that this was something I believed, and I did. I believed that I needed to push harder. I believed I needed to go faster. I believed that I would only have one shot at any of these things. I believed all sorts of stuff. And it's just not true. By the grace of God, I will have, I hope I have 60 more years on this planet, right? And that's what I'm going to bet on. I'm not going to bet on the fact that I've got 2 weeks. I'm going to bet on the fact that I have 60 years. And if that's not the case, okay. But I guarantee those 60 years will be a lot less stress because I think I've got a long runway. I think I'm in this for the long game. I think that means I can go slower. That means I can be graceful. That means I can be present with my children in this moment instead of believing that I got to hustle and roll and travel and do all these things and miss their childhood.
She's making this seem like she made the choice to take a step back and relax. No, she did not. She was hustling during COVID. She had a virtual event that she did. Her and Dave were doing the morning shows. Her and Dave were doing vlogs. She was trying during the pandemic. So the pandemic did not change her. What changed her was getting canceled. And she had no choice but to step away, probably by the advice of anyone trying to help her out and saying, give it a rest, take some time off and come back later and try. But she's going to spin it as to, I wanted to spend time with my children. I wanted to, take a break because I learned the lesson of hustle culture is out. And that's the only difference too, is that hustle culture no longer is in right now. It's all about, self-love right now, meditation right now. So that's why she's interested in this lifestyle. In my opinion, she just follows the trends.
Like, someday I'll have enough money and then we can really go on vacation, or then we can really celebrate, and it's just, I just don't believe it's true. I believe that life is long. By the grace of God, we don't know, but by the grace of God, life will be long. And if my life is long, that means I've got time. And frankly, if I'm wrong about this, if unbeknownst to me, I've got 2 weeks left, believing that I'm going to have a long, good life is going to make whatever life is left so much better. And if I believe that I've got a long life, that means I don't have to carry stress or worry or fear about not moving fast enough. I can let go of any shoulds. I can stop shoulding all over myself. Well, I should do this and I should do that and I should have had this done by now, right? You have to trust that no matter what happens, you will figure it out. Because your fear of getting it wrong is keeping you from doing anything. Like the idea that, Steph, that you would make a decision, believe you were guided and that was your intuition, and then talk yourself out of it. Oh no, girl. Once I make a decision, boom, done, we're going. I don't debate it or question it another second. You know what it reminds me of?
Maybe you should. Maybe that's the key to your success, Rachel, your future success, hopefully, that you make it back into the good graces of everyone. Maybe you should think twice before you immediately pounce on something, because the things that she did do by intuition failed because she did not take a second to breathe. And she even claims that she was pushed into it by her husband and the men in her life. She seems to be blaming men a lot lately too, that she was speaking on stages that she didn't want to speak on because Dave put her there and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. It just seems like she's like, she did the Quibbly show. Quibbly did not work out. She put all her eggs in that basket for a while. Failed. And it's not her fault that it failed. It was the company itself failed. But she did a whole Quibbly show. That failed. Put all her eggs in the basket on the Rise app. That failed. It's like, these are decisions that she made that cost people's jobs, that cost her money, that cost those people money and livelihood. She doesn't have a building anymore, so it seems. Maybe she still owns it, but she doesn't have an office space with the whole 60, she hired 60 employees way too fast. All those things could have been thought about a little bit more consciously, and maybe she would still have a business. Maybe if she didn't hit record on that TikTok, she would still have a company that's thriving. So this is bad advice. If you're taking it from her, look, she's lived experience that it does not work.
ago, it's just popped in my head. Years ago, I went to get a facial, and I was planning my wedding. I was close to my wedding. This was years ago. I was getting married. I was like 20 years old or something. And oh man. Okay. So I'm sitting in this lobby waiting to get a facial, and one of the magazines on the coffee table was a wedding magazine. And I'm like, oh, cool. You know, my wedding's like a month away or something. So I'm excited. And I'm flipping through. And as I'm flipping through this magazine, I'm getting more and more depressed because all I'm seeing in the magazine are the most gorgeous weddings and the coolest ideas. And I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done that. Oh, dang it. Those flowers, I like those colors better than my colors. And I wish that I had. And I'm like, I'm spinning out over all the things I wished I would have pulled into my wedding, but now it's too late. And I learned a really important life lesson, which was like, no, you are looking outside yourself. You're questioning decisions that you've made. It's only going to make you unhappy. It's only going to make you anxious or unsure. And the color of the flowers didn't matter anyway, right? Not just as a side note, none of the stuff that I was hoping for that was going to be like the thing that made our wedding great, none of that even mattered.
I just want to bring this up for a second. This is Rachel Hollis's own article. Her own article that she wrote for HuffPost back in the day, 2012, so much before her rise to fame. So she got married, I don't know when, years before this, I believe. My worst wedding was my own. She hated like all the details about it. She hated all the stuff. So she didn't learn that life lesson very quickly after the wedding. She's making it seem like I looked at the magazine and I learned a life lesson in real time. It's like, no, she said that, you know, she was tacky. She had a tacky wedding. She'd never put it into her portfolio because she was an event planner back then. It's like, so you lie. She just lies constantly. Or she forgets strategically.
Created.
Oops. That is not what we're watching. Okay. Back to the podcast.
That made our wedding great was the stuff that I never even thought about, like our friends dancing all night and, you know, like it just all these great things that had nothing to do with the tiny details I was obsessing over. So once I make a decision, I go, and my trust starts with knowing that whatever happens, I'm going to figure it out, and also believing that everything is happening for me. I believe that. I believe that everything's happening for me. I had a really interesting sort of grapple with this. I'm sure if you've hung out with me, you've heard me talk about this a lot, this idea that I believe that life is happening for us and not to us. And because I have that belief, I tend to spend a lot of time.
I've never heard that before. Please explain again for the millionth time.
Analyzing hard things that I've gone through. And because I'm looking for the lesson, and it's something that has served me really well. And I believe I'm the woman I am because of a willingness to like dig into the hard stuff and figure out why it happened or how I contributed to it. And recently, I can talk about this better now, but I did an episode.
A warning, trigger warning that she does not give. And if you were watching Cringefluencers earlier, this is, again, what we were talking about for a little bit on that episode. She's going to bring up her losing her baby. Now, she's brought it up several times throughout. She hasn't brought it up in Rage Talk, but she's brought it up in several podcast episodes. She did a full episode about it. She's talked about it several times, just thrown into other episodes. So she's going to bring it up again. And I thought this time it was interesting how she brings it up because she talks about her boyfriend's experience a little bit, which I was kind of wondering about his take on this because, you know, she got with this guy quickly, and she talks about the dating part too, which, well, you know, I think is interesting. But she got with this guy. She's only been with him a year, and they've already had this pregnancy and stuff. So it seems like this was also going really fast, similar to how her and Dave got together. You know, they met when she was 18. They were married when she was 19, I believe. And same with this, like this, she gets with this guy immediately after the divorce, and they're already going to have a child together. I'm not really casting a judgment about that, whether that's right or wrong or good or bad. I mean, she can do whatever she wants. I have no problem with out of wedlock children. That's not what I'm saying. But it just seems like a little bit chaotic. And now she's going to kind of talk about his role a little bit. And I kind of, it, again, just basically goes against everything she's saying here. And I'll talk about it once we get through this section. But just a warning, if this is a trigger for you, miscarriage and baby loss, don't listen. Warning. Okay, we're going to hit play. Okay.
in, I think, January, which you could go back and listen to, about losing, I keep trying to not say that. I don't like the term losing my baby, because I didn't lose her. I didn't like leave her somewhere, but I was pregnant.
I also think this is the first time she's gendered the baby as her. And maybe that's just, she just genders everything she as a default, but I thought this is the first time she said that too.
And my baby died. And, that happened in December, and it's the end of March. And I still have really been having a hard time. Not a hard time in that it's not affecting all day, every day, but I'm still really grieving that loss and mourning it very deeply, and really I've just spent months and months trying to understand why. Why did this happen? Why? Because I wasn't planning on it, and because I got pregnant while using birth control for the second time in my life. I thought that maybe that meant that God wanted that baby to be here, or that the universe had a plan that I didn't understand. I don't want more children, and didn't want more children. I have 4 kids, and I'm great, and it's also a lot. So I didn't have any plans to have more kids. And then when that happened, I was like, oh my, well, maybe I don't understand. And so it happened, and it was hard to grapple with, but then I really quickly got so excited, because I thought, oh, well, okay, the universe always knows better than I do, so I'm going to trust this. And then I got really excited. And so when I have told this story before, but I went in to the doctor for a routine ultrasound, and the baby didn't have a heartbeat anymore. I just couldn't understand it. And I'm proud of myself, because I feel like I've done a lot of work to even be able to talk to you guys about this without crying. But I was crying the other day. I was crying about it, and I was crying to my boyfriend, and he was like, baby, why do you feel like you keep needing to like dig this up and unpack it from every angle? And I was like, because I just want to know why. I want to know why. Why did this happen? I don't understand why. And I feel like if I could just unpack it enough, then I would understand. And he was like, oh, sometimes shitty things just happen. Sometimes it's just that. And there isn't going to be a great why. And it's the first time that I've really taken that to heart, that I understand that sometimes shitty stuff just happens.
So the whole thing about life happens for me, I truly believe this. This is a belief I hold deeply, except when it doesn't fit in the narrative that I've created. How convenient. I hate to say that in this instance because it's such a serious topic, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like life happens for me unless something bad happens, then it doesn't count. It's frustrating. And I agree with her boyfriend. There's not a life lesson in everything. She told a story about watching this guy die at the park. She's like, well, this was a message for me to learn that life is short. It's like, that guy didn't die for you, Rachel. These things don't happen. Everything that happens bad to someone it doesn't come from a place of consequence or a place of oh, I asked for this, therefore I shall receive it. I don't think. Some stuff is great and happens, and some stuff sucks, and that happens too. And that's life, finding a balance in between it. So her telling this story, it's like she just went on a whole rant about how life happens for her. She believes this. However, here's a very real, or I don't know if it's real. She's saying it's real. I'll take her word for it. Story that actually is, an anecdote, and then saying, well, this doesn't apply to this story though. It's like, then why tell it in the first place? Why tell other people life happens for you? Here's a story where I totally blow that concept up. She does this a lot, and I don't understand it.
And that how something can be for you is how you're shaped by the process and who you become through the process, but it doesn't always have to be a lesson that you're learning. And so I have trust in myself, and I have trust in God that I am being shaped and formed into the person that I'm supposed to be, and that I will figure it out no matter what happens. And the trust starts there. You're not going to be able to trust yourself in a decision.
And I love this comment because it's so true. her intuition, she's telling, again, in the beginning of the podcast, it's like, men always try to tell us what to do, and they're at the pulpit, and they're just telling us, how to live our life, and they don't understand. But my boyfriend told me that I should just, accept that shit happens in life. It's like, that's not your intuition either. It's not like you've, intuitively figured this out. She said that she was crying and struggling because she's trying to find the meaning, because Tony Robbins told her there's meaning in all things and how life happens for us, and she's grappling with why that doesn't feel true in this moment because a tragedy has happened. Yeah, her boyfriend had to talk to her through that, which is fine, but then don't go and say, well, I have a strong intuition, I'm going to teach you how to grow yours, because you don't have one. Apparently, according to your own words in this exact podcast.
That you have to make, or trust yourself to listen to your inner knowing if you can't start with that truth. That no matter what happens, you will be okay. That no matter what happens, you are on the path. And that no matter what happens, you will figure it out.
Unless you don't.
You're out pursuing it. So I'm in works, sight of the thing that, and you do not, sight and control advice, some things that are a bit less nebulous and a bit hand control, which is ourselves.
That was an ad.
Now, here's some more tactical advice, some things that are a bit less nebulous and a bit more like, do this thing to make your intuition strong.
More advice. I don't know what the first advice was. Don't listen to men. Then a minute later, she says, listen to your boyfriend. I don't know what the advice was thus far. But we're into more advice now.
The first thing is, the first thing I wrote down is inner knowing. So how I thought to describe this was the difference between feeling something and thinking something. Feeling something and thinking something. So your inner knowing, I believe, is always, always, always trying to talk to you. But there's a solid chance, if you feel like you're out of touch with your intuition, that you have ignored her so many times, that you've shoved her down, that you've blocked her out, that you've numbed her with food or alcohol or pills or drugs or sex or sleep or whatever, that it's like a little kid that's been told to shut up so many times that they just stop trying to talk. So part of this is that you need to get quiet and feel. So meditation is really great for this. Prayer is really great for this. Understanding kind of how your body, meditates best. I'm using air quotes if you're not watching this on YouTube. I say meditates because there are different types of meditation for me. So if I am trying to really get in touch with what I'm thinking and feeling on the inside and what I believe I'm being guided to do, I believe in spirit guides and angels and hearing the voice of my creator. And if I want to do that, I have to get quiet. So how I personally do that is I will put on meditation music. You can grab that on Spotify. You can tell your Alexa app. I literally tell her every morning, Alexa, play meditation music. She just will have a playlist ready to go for you. And I'll just sit and get quiet and focus on my breathing. I don't think that I'm a very good, I'm not like a meditator. I don't know. Those teachers, Jay Shetty will teach you how to meditate and he'll do it in the proper way.
No, he won't.
I can't quiet my mind for 20 minutes at a time or 2 hours. I can't. So I just focus on my breathing. And when I close my eyes, I focus on my breathing and I take this for what it's worth, but I try and, my third eye chakra, so if you know much about chakras in the yogic tradition, right between your eyebrows, a little bit above, would be your third eye. So I close my eyes and I just try and focus on that spot. One, I guess it would be great because energetically you're opening up your third eye, but there's something about, for me, if I'm, I don't know if this sounds weird, but if my eyes are closed and I'm trying to still focus on something, I'm less likely to get distracted. But if I get distracted, if my mind starts to wander and I'm like, oh, I need to get bread for the kids' sandwiches for lunch, as soon as I notice it, I just come back to trying to focus on that spot again. I don't get angry at myself. I don't get mad. I'm really gentle with, my mind tends to wander and that's okay, but I'm just trying to sit and be still. It's one of my favorite scriptures is be still and know that I am. And I feel like in that moment, you can't listen to the voice of I am unless you are practicing it, which is something I really want you guys to hear. Start with 2 minutes. Do 2 minutes of breathing, eyes closed, focused, quietness for 2 weeks, and then do 3 minutes, and then do 4. And you build up like anything else. This is a practice. It's not something that will immediately come to you. You've spent 46 years ignoring this thing. It's going to take more than 3 sessions to try and feel comfortable getting it back. So meditation is really helpful, and really pay attention to, is this a thought I'm having or a feeling that I'm having? A great way to look at this is my favorite question to ask friends or sometimes podcast guests when they're talking about something that went really horribly wrong. A relationship where the person turned out to be someone totally different than they thought, or a business partner who went rogue, or a situation that went really badly. My favorite question to ask is, what's the first red flag that you ignored? Because I found in my own life, and when I challenge people with this question, that everybody has a moment where they knew, they had that inner knowing, they had a feeling in their gut that was like,
Couldn't that be a limiting belief? Like, oh, it's only a red flag in hindsight. If you had a red flag about somebody and then you said, yeah, like, okay, for example, a business partner, and I'm like, yeah, this guy or this business partner doesn't seem like a good match, and I'm asking Rachel for advice, I'm sure she would say, you're just afraid of succeeding. You're afraid that of all the success that you could have with this business partner. Do it. Don't be afraid. Just move. Just make the move. You could always leave later. You could always leave after, you could get out of the business relationship. So that's the one advice. Now she's going to say, don't ignore red flags. You can't do both. That's why this is complicated. That's why every decision we make could have grave consequences or no consequences. It could have amazing potential to grow. It could have zero potential to grow. That's what life is about. And that's why it's, I think, very random in a lot of ways. You can't hack it. You can't life hack your way into figuring out, okay, which decision is right at any one time. It's all a guessing game. Some people get more lucky than others, in my opinion.
this is wrong. So a powerful question is like, can you find a time in your life where you knew and you ignored it? That's number one. Because what I would actually say is you probably can find 100 situations in your life where you knew, you had a feeling, but you ignored it. And two, if you can even do a little bit of more deep diving and ask yourself, why did you ignore it? I think I've told you all this story before, but I have a very dear friend who had a project, huge project, very successful project, public, a celebrity thing. And publicly it was like, oh my gosh, she's living the best life. And privately it was hell. Privately, the business partner who was helping her to bring this thing to fruition was so wrong. And again, publicly, it's like the fame, the fortune, all of it's happening. Privately, it was miserable. And she was telling me the story, and I was like, oh, when did you have the first red flag about this business partner? Because there is no way that you got through this whole process and suddenly everything changed. And she was like, honestly, I knew at the first meeting. I'm like, okay, why did you ignore it? And she said, because the opportunity was so big and I was so excited. And I told myself, or I believed the idea that if I didn't do it with this person, that I would never have the opportunity. So her ego and her fear and her scarcity mindset made her do something that later ended up being a bit of a nightmare. And
I feel like that's a little harsh on her side. Her scarcity mindset, her fear, her ego, like, geez, she must hate this woman now because she's speaking about her very negatively. Yes, in retrospect, when the relationship blows up or whatever, or the business blows up, yes, you could look back and go, what made you ignore a red flag? Well, this reason, that reason, okay, you could work on it next time. But again, like, if it worked out perfectly and there was no issues, that red flag would have become like, oh, that was me just being afraid of myself. You can't decide. Again, like, it's the outcome dictates going backwards and recounting all these memories and things. But you can't use this in real time because your limiting beliefs and I say that very sarcastically, your limiting beliefs and your intuition have the same voice. At least to me, she hasn't said one thing and no guru has said one thing. It's like, oh, well, you'll know. It's like, I don't know shit. You'll feel it in your heart chakra, in your third eye, you'll feel it. It's like, okay, well, I feel a pimple coming through, but I don't feel any sort of, knowledge sharing device poking out. So I need more help. And they're like, sorry, gotta go, buy my course, see ya. Moving on.
like, yeah, she got money and yeah, she got celebrity, but she's my friend, so I know the hell that she lived through for 3 years. And it wasn't at all what it could have been. And the final product wasn't what she would have hoped. And all of these things went wrong, like really bad, like legally, just absolute crap behind the scenes. Public didn't ever know. But had she trusted her intuition about this business partner, I believe she would have.
I would have called her someone who doesn't take risks in this podcast, as opposed to someone who didn't listen to her beliefs, because that's the way the dice rolls, baby. And I wonder who she's talking about. I'm assuming maybe like Jen Hatmaker. I don't know enough about her to make that call, but that was the only friend that I know that she has that's like kind of also at her level, I suppose. Who do you think it is, who she's talking about? It's a woman, obviously, so it kind of narrows it down somewhat, but yeah, I was trying to figure out who it was. I don't know enough about that side of her life.
Better set up. I believe the universe had something better in store, but she ignored it. So if you can go back and look and say, okay, when was I feeling?
And again, too, because everything works out and life happens for you, even though this woman made the choice to go into the partnership with this other person who turned out bad, wouldn't that be because God is teaching us a lesson? Like, again, like this advice doesn't even make sense in this 40 minutes that we've listened to. The advice is not even like, oh, I'm pulling from all these different days. Maybe she doesn't remember. Maybe she changed her mind. No, this is the same podcast. The information doesn't even equate. And I don't know if she doesn't realize that, or if she just doesn't care, or what.
Thing. And my brain talked me out of it. My rational brain talked me out of it, and I ignored what I was feeling. I have this happen all the time, and I annoy the crap out of my team. Like, I have big fancy agents and, for all the things, because that's what happens. I have, agents who work on the podcast, and agents who work on my books, and agents who work on movie stuff. And, someday when I finish the edit on this screenplay, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
She has a movie agent for what? When she finishes her screenplay? About what? I'm guessing it's going to be about her life. Given her track record of content, it's always about her. So it's probably going to be the Rachel Hollis memorial story, or her career in memoriam. What's it called? A memoir. That's what I'm trying to say. The memoir of Rachel Hollis, brought to screen, put on by Fathom Events.
I will not work with people that there's just a bad vibe. And
Bullshit.
It's crazy because sometimes it's really important partners. And I've done this in the past where I was so excited about people in my industry and getting to collab with them and getting to do things. And then when I got to know them, I realized like, this is something's wrong. And I can't tell you what it is, but I just know in my heart that I don't want to be around this energy. And I don't. And I've walked away from so much money and so many opportunities because my intuition tells me that this is not the right thing to do.
Bullshit. Oh, so Beachbody, Rodan and Fields, doTERRA, those all felt good for you? Those all felt really, really PC? Those were in line with your intuition? Okay, sure they are. Yeah, I've walked away from so much money. No, you didn't. I'm sorry. No, you haven't. Give me one example of something you walked away from. Because she basically took every opportunity she got, from what I saw. That's what it looked like. Maybe she didn't take up, like when she was at the peak of her success, maybe she didn't take every offer that she got because she had the ability to have choices. But I don't think that's from a place of like, oh, am so ethically clean and I have a higher vibe than others. That's what it's coming off as. I think it was just, who's paying me the most? Where do I want to go? I don't have to do all of this stuff because I'm making bank and I can make choices now. But that's typical. That's with anybody. That's with anything. You have more choices, the more income, the more security you have. I walked away because I didn't like the vibe. It's like, yeah, right. I don't believe it for 1 second.
And I won't. I would literally rather go work at a coffee shop with good, awesome humans than make a movie with a bunch of douchebags.
No, you wouldn't. That is absolutely, go work at a coffee shop then, because who's going to make a movie with you that you're not self-funding? That's not about your life, It's such bullshit, and it's so... it's not even disrespectful. It's just so far from reality that she wants to make us believe. Like, she just wants to create. She just wants to create cool stuff. It's like all you've created in the last 10 years is content about your life and what other women should do with theirs. That's it. I've seen not one creative piece of content other than in that realm and that field. So what would you create if you weren't able to give advice about your life? Nothing. Go work at a coffee shop then, because there's no, I don't know. She's so full of shit. She's not worked, I don't think she's worked ever, and maybe when she was a child, but when she was 19, she worked in Miramax. Yeah, Miramax, yes. Which I think is an incredible feat that she never talks about how she got that job. I would like to know that information. Then she jumped to a different company within like 6 months. Then she was married, and then she had an event company, and then she became a blogger, and then she never worked in a coffee shop once or any sort of retail environment for minimum wage that I know of. So don't tell me you're going to work in a coffee shop when you've never even like stepped foot on the back end of any sort of establishment that's not, your own company or some sort of literal Hollywood studio. Give me a break.
Would. Because I believe that the opportunity to make a movie with awesome humans will show up eventually. But I think that intuition is my inner knowing saying this is not the right path for you. And that's a personal value for me, right? Like, it doesn't have to be the same for you. But one of my mottos is I want to make cool shit with cool people. That became my motto after years of making cool shit with people who weren't great. And absolutely having...
Like who? Dave? That was your husband also. Jack's been with you for years. You hate the people in your company that you hired yourself? Whose fault is that? Your intuition was off that day too?
The thing I was making be destroyed by, like, either because I was inside of a situation where it became so bad I didn't even want to work on the project anymore, or because maybe the project was cool, but behind the scenes it was just like a crap show. Yeah, I don't know. I really listen to my gut. And I think that if you're not used to doing that if you go back historically and just sort of take some time and think about what were people in your life that turned out to be not at all who you thought they were, or what were experiences that turned out not at all, like they turned out so badly. Like, think of those times and think, did I ever sense it beforehand? There's an old book by Gavin de Becker called The Gift of Fear. I remember watching him on Oprah years ago. And he says in that book that humans are the only animal that will sense fear or will sense that something's off and walk toward it anyway. And women do this all the time because they don't want to be impolite. They don't want to be seen as...
Women do this, but not Rachel. She'll tell you if the vibes are off, and she's always been like this. So it's only us who have this lesson to learn. Us dummies.
They don't want to be too loud. They don't want people to think that they're bitches. They do all of these things. They, like, your mother-in-law thinks that you're supposed to do something. You do it because you don't want anyone to think that, like, you're not a team player, or you're not dedicated, or you're not whatever. You make all of these choices in opposition of what your inner knowing is telling you is true. Sometimes your inner knowing is like, no, bitch, you need to go take a nap. You don't need to do one more thing. You don't need to go to that workout class. You don't need to volunteer at the church bake sale. You don't need to be room mom. You don't need that.
You don't need to write a book at 5 o'clock in the morning while your kids are sleeping because you think, what you're doing is not good enough. Isn't that totally the opposite advice that you've been giving for years and years and years? Like, if you want to make something happen, you got to do it. If you need to sacrifice your sleep, do it. I drink green smoothies that I hate every single morning because it's good for me. At the Rise conference, I eat salmon because it's good for me, but I hate the taste of it. It's like, so your intuition is telling you, these things don't taste good. These things aren't good for you. Don't do them. Yet you're doing them anyways because you're proving to yourself, I guess, that you're made for more. Pushing through doubts and fears. You were making fun of the meme that said, or not congratulate, but be thankful that you just breathed today. Like, breathing is enough sometimes, some days. Just be thankful for that or grateful or whatever. And she was like, no, like, we have the same hours as Beyonce, 24 hours. So how dare you say that you just breathe today? What a lame ass, that's not what she said. But that's kind of the vibe of what she was saying. So now that's out the window, again with no explanation. This is new advice now from a Rachel that's done this the whole time. She just didn't share that with us.
You need rest. And you ignore that voice inside you, that voice that comes from something greater than yourself. You ignore it because you think, nope, you know what? It matters more what other people think of me than what I know to be true. And I don't want them to say that I'm lazy. And I don't want them to say that I'm not trying hard enough. And I don't want them to see that. So I'm going to go in opposition of what I know in my soul is the right thing for me. The other flip side is really powerful. It's one of my favorite things to meditate on, is to think of something that has happened that just absolutely turned out so much better than you thought. Like it just ended up being this miracle, this amazing thing. And when you look back, you can see that it was divine providence.
Okay, so now she's going to talk about her getting on her networking app. She's the spin queen, man. She's the queen of spinning a story into something that's a life lesson for other peasant women to follow. So like some mistake that she's made or some, taboo thing she's done, within 3 weeks, she has a new way to present it to you as like, no, what you thought I said was not true. And it's actually, here's the advice I'm going to give to you to change your life. Here we go. She's going to talk about divine providence or prominence or whatever the hell that is, about her boyfriend and her finding each other on the apps. Networking apps, as she's calling them now.
See that you were guided, because I don't think it's possible to be led into something divine, into something that the universe has for you, if you aren't on some level in touch with an inner knowing, even if it's just the smallest, tiniest bit. So if you can do some meditations on, okay, when did it go really right? When were times where I listened to my gut, even if it was a bit unconventional, and it worked out really well, right? I think about this with my boyfriend, like the love, like I'm being such a geek. And if you're listening to this instead of watching on YouTube, you don't see me like blushing and being a geek. But like I opened, he's out of town for work for like a week. And I opened a book.
He's also British and he's in Europe for work.
My book that I'm currently reading, I opened it and there was a note tucked inside this morning. And it was the most beautiful, amazing, poetic, sweet note.
Sorry.
And the thing was, when I got in bed last night, there was the most amazing note tucked under my pillow. And what I know, because he does this whenever he goes out of town, is that I'm going to continue to find those notes hidden all around the house. And this was a friend, I'm using air quotes, this was a friend I met for coffee a little over a year ago. This random thing, I had
It's not random.
3 different people tell me about this app. 3 different people. Whenever I hear something 3 times, I always think that the universe is guiding me. But 3 separate people.
When I heard that line, I thought of the Austin Powers movie. I think it was the second one. The Spy Who Shagged Me, where the guy in the fez cap, Will Ferrell, was like, you have to ask me 3 times. If you ask me 3 times, I must tell you the truth. And then, so Austin would ask him 3 times. He's like, damn it. Okay, Dr. Evil is, and he would have gone to explain, like, and then he fell off the cliff. He's like, I'm still down here. I'm still alive, but my leg is very badly broken. Okay, that's totally off topic. Very in line with the message of today. Just go all over the place. But that's what it reminded me of.
Tell me about this app that was for people who had higher profile jobs. So it wouldn't maybe be that easy to like meet new friends or meet like just going on Instagram and be like, hi, you want to go meet me for coffee? But that you could find people sort of in your industry or who'd be cool. I don't know. So I got on this app because 3 different people told me about it. And I was trying it out and it was just silly and I thought it was kind of fun, but I hadn't met anybody. And then it all, I look back now and I'm like, every single step was guided. This guy that I connected with and he had and has a very cool job. So I was like, well, that's a cool job. And that'd be cool to like connect with someone in the music industry. Like, what's that all about? And we like connected on the app. And I remember it was during this like crazy snowstorm that Austin had. And he was like, he needed to, I forget why, but he couldn't be on the app anymore. So he was like, just text me. It's easier to text me. And I had all kinds of creeper guys be like, let me get your number. And all of them like, no, you can't have my number. Get away from me. And this random guy that I had just connected with, he was like, here's my number. Like, just.
You see how she doesn't say, sorry if I was too loud a second ago. See how she also says she never met any women from this app. At least she hasn't said like, oh, I met so many girlfriends from this app, and then this guy too. It's all, she's like, all these creeper guys were trying to text me and I wasn't interested, because she was there to date. She keeps trying to hide this fact that she was there to date. She's like, oh, I was just networking. Wouldn't you have met one woman or another man because you were there for friends? Wouldn't you have met maybe 2 friends, or maybe continue to use the app after you met your boyfriend so you can continue to do what you had intended to do, just make friends? But no, once you find the man, you're off the app, right? I'm assuming.
Text me. And for some reason, I was like, yeah, I can text him. And I text him, and then we were just literally friends. Like, we were trading like, oh, here's the book I'm reading and whatever. And then we finally met for coffee. And then.
Okay, I just want to point out too, when she met Dave, they exchanged rap lyrics back and forth for a couple weeks before they went on the date. So literally history repeating itself. Hello. And she also said the other night, she also said in the Rach talk that we watched, not this part, but she said, oh, we had date night. We're going on date night. So she's doing date night with this guy the same way she did date night with Dave. Date night with Dave. That's going to be his new YouTube show. Date night with Dave.
Just were like friends who had coffee, and it just grew, and every part of that was guided. Every part. I can't like totally even believe. I have a sweet friend who, again, because I don't believe in accidents, I was on a business trip, and
she's a sweet friend, a sweet lady, a sweet whatever else. They're always sweet when they're below her. That's her key word for below me, I think. Below me, below me, not below me. She calls them sweet. And I think that's a little bit infantilizing too. Like, oh, this sweet woman, like, can't she just be a fellow woman? She's got to be a sweet woman. Yeah.
One of my friends that I haven't seen, we text each other all the time, but we live in different places. And neither of us live in the city that we were in for work. And she walked into where I was. And I jumped up. I gave her a big hug. I was so excited to see her. And she just like word vomited. She was like, I'm getting a divorce and nobody knows. And I was like, oh, like come in here for the real thing. And I ended up, having the beautiful opportunity to hold space for her in that. And I don't believe that was an accident at all. Both of us were guided to be there that day so that we could have that conversation. And yeah, I really listen. Guys, I'm always listening.
So if there's no such thing as accidents, life happens for you instead of to you. Everything's divinely guided, but only if it's told to you 3 times. So if it's told to you twice, not divinely. And then if something happens like what happened to her, the baby thing, then that doesn't count. So so again, I'm back to I don't understand the law here or the rule of thumb, and it's not helping me build my intuition because I don't know which one it is at any given time.
And there's a bit of whimsy in listening to the voices and believing that it's guiding you to something better. I told you the story about running a marathon a month ago. I wasn't supposed to run a marathon. I missed my yoga class. And I was like, oh, I missed my class because I'm supposed to be doing something else. I just had this feeling I was supposed to be doing something else. And when I went to go get a smoothie, I saw a sign for the marathon and ended up jumping into the marathon last minute and having one of the most profound experiences of my life. We're constantly being guided, but you have to trust. And one of the ways that you can trust is to look at historically when this has worked for you so that when you get a similar feeling in the future, you're going to trust it.
Rachel's had more mishaps in the last 2 years than successes. Now, in the last 5 years, she's had about probably the same, equal amounts. So how do you decipher it then? It's like equal. It's like, okay, well, I listened to my gut 12 times. 6 of them worked and 6 of them didn't. So which times were wrong? Well, it's luck of the draw.
I wrote a note here too about listening to your body. Your body will warn you before your mind will ever catch up. And sometimes your mind actually won't catch up. So pay attention to what is your body language when you meet someone, right? Like,
oh God. Fair warning, this is a bunch of, if you're a woo-woo person, you probably will appreciate this. I am not a woo-woo person at all. Woo, no woo. Anti-woo. This is an anti-woo person speaking. I can respect it, but I don't believe in it. She's about to talk about muscle testing. And and watch yourself if you meet somebody. If you go like this when you meet somebody, it's your body telling you that that's a bad person. Bad person. I don't believe this.
Times, based on however you feel when you're meeting new people or you're around new experiences, sometimes you'll be closed off, right? Like your body language is your arms are folded, your sort of shoulders are hunched, you're feeling a need to be protective because maybe that's just your energy. You get a little nervous around new people. But also our bodies will naturally respond to a situation that we don't trust. We don't trust that person. We don't trust that experience. Or even your body is telling you that there's this idea, this decision, this dream, this path that you're trying to chase, that there's something about it that's not right. There's a really interesting stuff that you can research. Some people, this is going to sound real woo-woo. This is your woo. I should have like a sound that plays like, here's your woo-woo moment. But there's lots of people that work.
I'll play this sound, Rachel.
Am I the only hippie? Oops. My guardian angels, my spirit guides.
Yeah, what a great point. And that's true with The Secret too. The law of attraction. It's like if you think like, okay, I'm gonna manifest a marathon, and I'm like, I'm gonna manifest a marathon. Then I go walk around town looking at all the things to see. Oh, marathon! There it is! I found it. It's like, okay, but you ignored the 27,000 other signs that were around you too, because you're looking for something. And Rachel milked that marathon to the last drop. She did it was part of Rach Talk. She did a full separate video on it. She did a full podcast episode on it. She wrote about it in her email on her newsletter thing. And she also did and she made a YouTube short about it. So 6 pieces of divine content. Well, that's convenient. I'm sure that wasn't pre-planned at all, because what else would you be doing that week? You had nothing else planned? You just pushed everything back? It seems unlikely.
With a pendulum, which is this idea that your body always knows the truth. You can research kinesiology, which is muscle testing in the body. And there's a ton of research on muscle testing and sort of your body knowing what's right and what's wrong. It's hard to show you right now, but just Google it if this is interesting to you at all. But I even teach my kids to do this. So if you study kinesiology,
I looked up a study from like an actual medical journal about this in advance, and it said there's no, at least the journal that I read, and I should give the caveat of I'm not a scientist, obviously, and I read it to the best of my ability, but basically from what it said was there's no proof that kinesiology works more than just guessing. So guessing is just as good as the method she's now going to explain in bad detail. Not bad, but just like, she doesn't explain it very well. It's basically like, okay, and I did this let me show you for a second, my body. When I was involved in woo-woo spirituality, which I used to be, the life coach that I had, she made me put my arms out, and she would ask me a question like, she'd say, do you think you're beautiful? For example, not that she would say that, but like whatever. And I would say yes. And then she'd go like this. And then she would push my arm down heavier and be like, nope, you don't believe that. And then we had to do like this mantra thing. It's called Psych K if you want to look into it. We did this mantra thing, and then she'd ask me again, and she'd put her arm down, and she'd like gently touch it. She's like, oh, see, now your body is telling me that you believe. And I'm like, do I? Because I don't feel like I believe it, but okay, whatever, I'll believe you. And then, yeah, it's all bullshit. That's what she's describing, so let it rip.
Different, oh gosh, I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole. It's too long. It will take too long to explain, but I bet you could go on YouTube and look up videos. But essentially, muscle testing is, when we're trying to make a decision, is that your body knows the answer, and that essentially like your muscles get weaker when there's a reaction, like your body's having a reaction to something. So you can't see me doing this right now, but I'm essentially holding, if you're on YouTube, you can see it. But if you're listening in podcast, I apologize if this doesn't make a ton of sense. But imagine I'm holding my index finger and my thumb together in a circle, and I'm taking my other index finger and sort of like pushing it against, my fingers are closed, but not really hard. And if you listen to my episode with Kimberly, this is how she does her energy work, is she's going through your body and she's doing this. And when something is a yes for her, her fingers stay closed. And when something's a no, the muscle gives way. If you've ever worked with kinesiology, sometimes a doctor they'll go through and sort of test all of your organs you'll have one hand that's raised and then
Ain't no doctor doing this. Maybe a naturopath, but no doctor is doing this for the record.
touching like your spleen, your stomach, your whatever. And when an area is weak, it's so crazy. Like your arm loses all of its muscle power.
No.
I feel like what I'm saying makes no sense. Please go Google it.
No, it's not true. Google it yourself if you want, but what she's saying is bullshit. I've done it. It's all you trying to, in my case, please the person that's doing it. And there's no, you lose all muscle. It's like them pushing on your arm and they push harder with the answer that they want to receive.
Where if you can watch it, you'll understand. There's lots of people in a spiritual practice who will use a pendulum. Literally, they'll dangle something from their fingers and they ask their body, what is a yes? Or they ask the pendulum, what is a yes? It's your body. Because, oh, bless it, guys. This is the part where Rachel goes off because this is very hard to explain. I could do a whole episode about it. In fact, call the hotline if you have questions. The hotline is 737-400-4626. You can call and be like, bitch, we don't know what you're talking about. Please explain that more. But you could do this with a pendulum, essentially dangling a chain from your fingers, and the pendulum will move in a certain direction if the answer is yes, and a different direction if the answer is no. Another way that I learned this was more of a kinesiology thing, was to stand upright, like stand with your feet on the ground, close your eyes, hands at your side, and ask your body, ask your inner knowing, just in your head, what is a yes? And you do this a few times, and when I do it, my yes is that my body sways forward a bit.
You can also do this with a Ouija board. You can put your hands on the Ouija board and let spirit and source energy guide you to the yes or no answer of your own choosing.
And I will ask my body, what's a no? And my body sways backwards. So you would do the same thing with a pendulum. You'd say, what's a yes? What's a no? And you're not moving your hand, but the pendulum will start to swing. And it's because energetically, you're affecting what your inner knowing knows the answer is. And you can test it, right? You can be like, am I wearing a black shirt? And it's wild what I'm saying. The reason that I'm going off on this tangent is because if you feel like you are out of touch with your body, which many, many people are, many of us are disconnected from our bodies after a lifetime of feeling shame and having body image issues and being told that we're wrong and other and different. And so you've lost that connection. A pendulum or muscle testing, kinesiology, or sort of the swaying back and forth can be a really powerful way to get in touch with what your body is feeling. That was a very long-winded explanation, but it's a really powerful tool when it comes to intuition.
No, it's not.
The next thing that I wanted to advise on this one was to practice reading energy. To practice reading energy, because this again goes to the idea.
Okay, now, woo-woo alarm part 2.
Am I the only hippie? My guardian angels, my spirit guides.
That's the only woo alarm I have right now. I'll make a woo alarm. She's going to talk about how she can read auras. So, buckle up.
Your inner knowing, I think, always knows if a situation, a decision, a person is right for you or not. And I would suggest, closing your eyes and thinking, like, clear your mind, and then think of friends, right? Like, think of your best friend and what's the first word that pops up. Think of your partner. What's the first word that pops up? Think of a child.
Lollipop. Zelda. Elementary school.
The first word that pops up, your boss. Just keep doing this, because that clear mind first word that comes up, if you're in touch with your intuition, is a very clear indicator. It's like reading someone's aura. So I don't know a ton. I actually wish I knew more about auras, but I could tell you that I would meet someone and I'm like, if I sort of close my eyes and try and focus in on their energy, or even like my best friends, I'll kind of get a feeling like, oh man, their energy is like really murky today. It's like a murky brownish green, like something. And I don't know what that means, but I know that that's very different than their normal, like bright, sunny, yellow, happy light. And I guess with this, it's just the idea of trusting yourself, because I don't know if anything that I've told you will track with someone who's deeply intuitive and like has been practicing this for 50 years and is a psychic or a medium, and they have like a whole set of tools and they've gone to classes. I don't know if anything I've said will track with what other people believe about intuition.
Listen, Rach, you know as much as they know, I think, because there ain't nothing to know. All they tell you is trust yourself deeply, or you go for 1 year, they're like, trust yourself. Swing the pendulum. Okay, how is that going to change over time? It's not. You're going to just do it more and believe it more because you've done it for longer, but you're just confirmation biasing yourself over and over again. So what she's saying is just as valid as the person who's done this non-tested, non-accredited woo-woo stuff, because, yeah, the newbie knows just as much as the expert. Nothing.
I am telling you what I know works for me. So maybe when I just said that my friend always has bright, sunny, yellow energy, and then when she was going through a hard season, she had like dark green, murky brown, maybe there's someone who's like, oh, dude, yeah, auras mean this, and the yellow means this, and the green means this, and that's why you're reading those things. Or maybe people are like, bitch, you don't know what you're talking about. But guess what? I'm not worried about it because this is how I interpret it to me. And I think that that's what matters most here is I can tell you how I get in touch with my intuition, and the internet can tell you all sorts of ideas about how to get in touch with intuition. But what's going to matter most is that you develop a practice where you feel connected. That's what's going to matter most. And that you trust if you're like, oh, you know what? When I think of people, I don't get words or colors. I get sounds. I get music. That you trust that that's just the way that your internal self works. Yeah, it's about intuition. But Stephanie from Ohio, it's about learning to trust it more than ever. There's so many things bombarding us and making us believe that we can't be trusted. Right? Like we're learning to trust ourselves less and less. And this idea of connecting again with your inner self, it's like an act of defiance. It's an act of rebellion. To say, yeah, I'm going to take in, that's incredible wisdom from this person. And man, the pastor had really good advice on this topic. And that teacher told me this, that was so good. But I have to take all of those things inside of me and understand what's going to work best for me. And that is a practice that will last your whole life. So I hope that that was really helpful, guys. I hope you got something out of our conversation today.
Nope. I'm confused. If I was, poor Stephanie's like, Stephanie doesn't exist, in my opinion, but, you know, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Stephanie from Ohio is like, I just wanted to know, like, what the difference was between your intuition and just random thoughts. Do you ever sit, like, this is something I think a lot about, you know, if you're on the side of a building or something, and you look over, and you're just like, and that that thing pops in your head, like, jump. Not really, like you don't actually want to jump, but like the first thing is like, wouldn't it be crazy if I jumped right now? Or wouldn't it be crazy if I whatever, or if I'm in traffic or something, like, wouldn't it be crazy if I just like push the gas? I have those thoughts all the time. I've never pursued them, obviously, but random thoughts will like there's a word for it. It's like intrusive thoughts. But okay, based on what she's saying, she's like, trust your intuition. Like it's never lying to you. It's always telling you the truth all the time. It's like, well, you want to jump off this building? Like, what are you trying to tell me? You know, like you need to have discernment again, but she's not explaining what discernment is or how to discern. So thanks for nothing, I guess. I don't know. That's that. Are you all still invested in this? Are we invested? Are we over Rachel Hollis content? Are we over it? Now that she's blocked me, like no one cares anymore. Oh, we can listen to Dave's. We've only been gone for 2 hours. We can listen to Dave's real quick. Maybe we'll see how much of Dave we can get through, and then if it's juicy, we can watch it or listen. And if not, we can just go home and go to sleep. Sign off for the day. Okay. This is...
Like
I already started it a little bit. So Dave's back. He's back in action, folks. This is Jeff Lerner. Never heard of him before.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Rise Together podcast. This is me, Dave, your host, and I am happy to introduce you to a friend who has himself been through a decent amount of change in career and life, and now finds himself pursuing passion in placing information, school as it were, in unconventional ways in the hands of business owners. His name is Jeff Lerner. In 2008, November-ish sort of time, the Great Recession was upon us, and he found himself at a rock-bottom place in his life. He was a former professional piano player, and as he was nursing an injured wrist, evicted from an apartment, being divorced by his wife, struggling with depression, owing creditors about $500,000, he needed to find something new. And if you fast forward now, Jeff is a 3-time Inc. 5000 CEO with over $100 million in sales to his name, who's also happily remarried with 4 beautiful children and living in many, many ways a dream life. So in 2019, a decade into the turning around of his life, he founded something called Entree Institute. And it is the world's first institute of higher learning for entrepreneurs, which is now one of the fastest growing education technology companies in the world. He splits his time between running Entree Institute and appearing in media.
It is a long introduction. How about we just trim this down? Can we just give the top thing? What is he doing today? Do we have to talk about the recession? Is this important to this introduction?
To inspire others with his remarkable turnaround story, I hope that you will be inspired today by his words. Please welcome to the Rise Together podcast, Mr. Jeff Lerner. What would the world look like if we all pushed ourselves to have candid conversations with people who didn't look like us, think like us?
Thanks, Amelia Bolsas. Thank you. Sheba Dog. Hey, okay. Let's continue playing. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Or live like us. I'm Dave Hollis.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Since we're on Dave, I'm also going to give you the last new soundbite. Since everyone stayed this long, you get to hear it. Ready?
I love you.
This one will haunt your dreams.
I love you.
I want to make this when I get a text from anybody.
I love you.
Okay, creepy Dave. All right, back to the real podcast. Thank you, Amelia.
And I'm on a mission to learn more about this world by meeting more of the people who live here. You may not always agree with everything you hear, but I guarantee you'll come away more informed on topics you might never have thought to seek out before. This isn't just a podcast, it's a community. And when we raise each other up,
Not.
we all rise.
Together. Pretending I'm at the stand-up conference, or sorry, show-up conference. Stand-up conference would be funny.
Jeff, hello.
Hey, Dave. So glad to be here. Thank you for that introduction. I'm listening to it. I'm like, I don't know who he's talking about, but
That's
they
you,
sound
brother.
they sound very blessed, and I want to know how.
You definitely wrote that, bro, yourself. Dave does not write like that. He writes long sentences that go on forever, but he doesn't write like that. So this is from your team or you. So, okay.
Did that. So
Yeah. Well, so I've given just like tops of the trees a little bit of your story, but in your own words, if you were at a cocktail party and someone asked you to describe what you do or why you believe that you're on the planet, what is the story that you would tell?
Well, I will say this. I've never been very good at cocktail parties because I'm the guy that somebody says, "Oh, how's it going?" You know, or what's the latest? And you know, they're looking for super.
Rachel said this too in her Rach talk. They all say this, that I'm not regular at cocktail parties. I don't do small talk. I jump into the deep end. I am so deep. They all say this. Like, I don't just talk about boring, normal human stuff. I go to like interstellar quantum physics at cocktail parties. It's like, yeah, sure.
Official chit chat, and I immediately go like Mariana Trench, 30,000 feet down. We're getting into the plumbing of the philosophical underpinnings of the universe, and they're like, "Bro, I was just making small talk. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over there now." So, I love your context for the answer. So I'm gonna give you the way I would answer right before they kicked me out of the cocktail party. I basically grew up feeling like a square peg in a round hole world. I was born with a genetic, I'm going to call it a gift. I think the clinical term is disorder, but it's called Waardenburg syndrome. And it doesn't really change your life. It can make you deaf, which I think is a real hardship. I'm blessed not to have that affectation, but it kind of just makes you look different. And that's cool now, like whatever, when you're an adult, it's like everybody's different. But when you're a kid, you know, that sameness is currency, right? And when you're the kid that looks different, and then couple that with being the kid that kind of acts a little different too, and is kind of like nerdy and cerebral, like I just had a really hard go. And I grew up feeling like almost like kind of like in a much less cool, less sexy way, like Neo in the Matrix. Like I'm looking at a world and it's not quite making sense. Like I can tell there's some programs running here that are not organic and healthy, right? And I think a lot of it came from that experience of having been bullied and having been forced to make peace with my differentness.
Yeah.
And that ended up becoming, I think, a superpower of like, I don't see things the way the way the rest of the world is. And so all through my childhood, I was always, I kind of felt like I was always fighting the system, right? Like when, you know, Public Enemy put out Fight the Power, I was like, that's me, right? I don't get the Matrix code. And so at 16, it all came to a head, and I actually got expelled from my high school that I was in. And I ended up transferring to another school, and it was just one thing after another, and I wasn't fitting in. And I was just like, I'm out, I'm done. Trying to fit in isn't making me happy, so I might as well just go be happy. And I convinced my parents to let me drop out of school. And I said, look, you guys were prepared to pay for my life until I was 18. So I've still got 2 years left. So instead of forcing me to be in this, you know, job training program they call high school, knowing full well that I do not desire career employment, let me go my own way. And by the way, all I need is a piano. I'm going to teach myself music, and I'm going to become a professional pianist. That was my brilliant master plan. And I knew that I had some aptitude because I played guitar when I was younger, and they went for it. They said, okay, you got a couple years. Here's a piano. We wish you the best. And I practiced like a maniac, 12, 14 hours a day, all night, every night, sleeping in the daytime, like whatever and literally to the point where years later, I developed arthritis in my wrist. That's why I had that injured wrist, because I just played too much. But it took a couple years, and I was able to start getting gigs. And all through my 20s, I ended up building a really, really nice career as a working pianist in Houston, Texas. And what was cool, what really changed the course of my life, other than just, you know, I learned a couple things from that. One, if you work really, really hard, you can succeed at a really hard thing, even when everyone around you is telling you that you can't and that you're crazy. Because everybody told me it was insane to want to be a professional piano player, even though I had just started when I was almost 17 years old.
So good.
But I also learned that, I was able to get a bunch of gigs. I got in with this one booking agent.
That was Dave trying to remind people that he's still there.
It actually started booking me in the home.
And I totally, I forget who said it. Kelsey said, sounds like David Spade. I totally agree. That's the voice I hear too. So good analysis, voice analysis. Yeah, Dave said one thing, and I'm not following quite this guy's trajectory, but okay, pianist he calls himself a pianist, which, okay, that was pianist. 16 years old, he quit school to become that. All right, interesting story.
Of like billionaires. And so I was doing private parties at the home, like for dinner parties for like James Baker, former Secretary of State. I played gigs for Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, and Jim Crane, the owner of the Astros. And I played multiple functions for the Houston Texans organization for Bob McNair, the billionaire owner of the football team. And like, I'm in these people's houses. It's like me and like 20 other friends. So I'm surrounded by like centimillionaires, and then the little $40,000 a year piano player in the corner. And I actually got to talk to some of these people, and I kind of got to know some of them because it's kind of intimate. They're like inviting you into their home to play on their $300,000 piano that's worth more than your whole life. And I would talk to them, and I almost kind of got like lightly mentored by all these wildly successful people in whose homes I got to play. And I just developed this passion for entrepreneurship because I looked at them and I was like, wait a minute, they have the best of both worlds. They have the freedom and the autonomy that I was seeking, but they also have the money and the quality of life to have way more choices in this world, and frankly, way more ability to do good or make an impact. I mean, I was younger then. I wasn't necessarily as altruistic. Now I look at it, it's like, look at all the good they could do. I would play galas where they would raise like $2 million to, research a cure for cancer. I couldn't do that. I was a broke musician. I didn't have $2 to go buy Taco Bell, right? And so
we got it, bro. And you also said that. And he also said that he made $40,000 at 16 years old. So that's like better than 99% of the people at that age bracket. So we get that you were less successful at 16 than these millionaires. Got the point loud and clear. This is so boring so far. I'm hoping it gets juicier. It's been a snooze fest thus far. Nothing juicy. I don't care. I don't know who this guy is.
I just got obsessed with entrepreneurship, and I started trying to start businesses. And it all kind of came to a head in my late 20s. I was 29 years old, 2008, when it finally, the other shoe dropped. I was on the hook. I had taken out some SBA loans. Like you mentioned, it was the Great Recession. I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I was a broke piano player. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I went on the internet, like Googling in the middle of the night, like, how can a broke person make some money, or, whatever. And I just...
Then I found Tony Robbins and poured $100,000 more down the drain.
Covered this world that was emerging at that time, about 10, 15 years ago, the world of digital marketing, the digital economy. And I started learning a lot of the same skills that digital marketers are learning now. It was just the earlier version, the 1.0 version of that. And I was a quick study. I've always been good at a keyboard, computer or musical, whatever. And within 18 months, I paid off that $495,000 in debt. And that was, I guess I got out of debt early 2010. And so then that's been about 12 years. I've just been stacking wins in the modern economy. And finally in 2018, I sold a digital agency, and I was 39 and I was basically ready to retire. And I was like, okay, I'm 39 years old. I'm ready to retire. 10 years ago, I was broke, literally homeless, living in my ex-wife's parents' house. This story probably warrants a little more.
Sir, the last thing I heard was that you were a 16-year-old piano player, and then all of a sudden you were in debt, and then all of a sudden you were out of debt, and now there's a homelessness story and an ex-wife? You left some holes in that cheese, sir.
Like, I should go tell somebody this story, right? It's like, maybe my calling in life isn't just to get to 39 and retire and go fishing. Like, I could do something with this. And so I started sharing with the world what I had done in the last 10 years and how I did it and the opportunities of the modern digital economy. And one thing led to another, and somebody hit me up and said, hey, do you have a course? And so I made a course, took 2 weeks, made a course. That course has now sold 230,000 copies and given rise to one of the fastest growing education platforms in the world, where we basically teach entrepreneurship in the modern world.
Amazing. All right.
Finally,
one thing you
shut
said
up.
earlier on is the turn for you of making peace with your differences. I think there's something so powerful. Like, I'm in a season, a while now, of just like radically accepting me for who I am, but also like not even like demonizing the differences, but maybe even celebrating them as part of what makes me, specifically me, the superpower that I have, or the unfair advantage that I possess. Like, it sometimes lives inside of some of those differences. I love the fact that you did that. The idea that if anyone can make peace with their differences, it probably almost immediately brings you freedom, which is the thing that you want most of all. I do think too, there's something about, when you were finally stepping into this version of who you were that was different and, outside of the traditional lines of what maybe most would have considered the right path at 16, you fell into passion and were able to demonstrate this idea of mastery as a thing that you can build with work and time. And you did that. Mm-hmm. And you still had then a left turn, a right turn thrown your way when piano wasn't going to be a thing that you could continue to do. And it was because of this proximity that you had to these people who in their homes you were playing in, that you, in some ways, I think were mentored, but in other ways, I'm going to argue were inspired.
I literally could care less about what the fuck they're talking about. This is interesting. Okay, I clicked on his music page, which weirdly, it's linked to his main page. His main page has, almost 100K followers. You go to his music page, he's got 131. Interesting. And then he's got a violation. Okay, this is him showing the violation. It says, my first live lesson called Pentatonic Scales and Some Blues Improv was removed for violating community guidelines. The only thing I can think that could have offended the AI is when I was talking about slip tones in minor pentatonic blues scales and how they were designed to emulate a wailing sound that derived from the sorrowful singing of the original black churches that were self-organized during the slave days in America. I was talking about how in the origins of blues, they used instruments to accentuate the emotion of the songs by finding ways to make the instrument sound like a human voice. I said nothing political or controversial. Last I checked, talking about culture isn't the same as appropriating it. I'm baffled as to how I offended Instagram. If we as a society have reached the point where such things cannot be discussed, then there's plenty to sing sorrowfully about. Okay, don't compare slavery to you getting a community guideline violation on Instagram, please. Jeffrey. Take care, Instagram. Okay, and you posted 17 times after that. And you're on your main account posting. Okay, just to give you the vibes of this dude. Okay, we can go back for a little bit. I'm literally zoning out because they both suck. So I'm gonna see how much more I can get through.
I would take a very little bit of time and attention they would give me, and I would turn it into a whole inspirational lesson, but it might have literally been 4 words. Like
Yeah.
2 words.
Yeah. I think though, it's like, Heidi and I did this conference last week. It was Heidi running the stinking show, but there was this moment where she read something out of this kid's book called Hope for the Flowers. And it's a kid's book, but it has a grown-up message. And it was just this story of these caterpillars that were afraid of what change would look like.
Sorry. Okay, now I'm invested again. Caterpillar gang. Can we normalize not reading children's books at women's conferences ever again? If we're gonna read a book, let's read a book that's not children, because it makes me feel like women aren't able to handle the chapter books in the library. That's just my hot take. It just makes me feel like the woman leading the conference is reading this little children's book to all of her little followers because they can't comprehend language above, a 4th grade level or something. That's the vision I get. I know it's supposed to be sweet, but let's not be sweet. Let's be regular. Okay, caterpillars. You're going to talk about butterflies again. Now we're away from the seashore. We're so far away from the seashore. We're now in the cocoons.
Because none of them had ever seen a butterfly. And then one of them ends up seeing a butterfly, and it gives them then this courage to believe in their ability to become the thing that they've always been. And I think that there's something in the experience.
The butterfly gave them the courage to become the thing they've always been. Okay.
Proximity that is just this reminder that if you aren't in life with, if you aren't putting yourself in environments where you're surrounded by people who already can fly, you might not ever come to appreciate that that's what you're here for. And so I think there's something really beautiful about that.
Huh?
Well, I still feel young at heart. I feel younger than I have in a long time, but I know I'm soon going to be facing the same issues that many Americans over 50 face. As we get older, we're going to be more and more concerned about affordable health care, lower
Yeah, I'm sure that's really a big concern for you, Dave.
prescription costs, and protecting Social Security and Medicare. And that's where AARP comes in. They advocate for you. And
You got AARP ads on here? Dave, my brother. As Rachel would say, my bro. They ain't looking good for you.
AARP.org/rise together.
That probably hurts him. That's why he said in the beginning, I feel younger than ever. That probably hurts him to have to read that ad read.
For just $12 for the...
He's used to being on the hot, young women train where he's getting the ladies from the Rise conference and the ladies at the Sus conference all wanting to know his secrets. And now he's reading AARP ads. I will say, if I was elderly, I would have not made it past this. I would be sleeping because this is boring.
Yeah, I think that when I look back on that time, and I just finished writing a lot of this in a book, so it's very fresh, and I've done a lot of really deep exploration of that time in my life. When I look back on that time, I realize the proximity was the opportunity, right? But at the same time, I was in a circle of a few hundred musicians that, I played between 300 and 400 gigs a year. So like I was playing a lot of gigs, right? Were
you playing the breakfast shows? It seems very unlikely that you play 400 gigs a year. That's 365 days in a year. You have to play every single day and some days twice. That seems very unlikely. Sorry to say, Jeff.
Basically maybe 500 musicians, maybe 1,000 in the city of Houston that were at the level. You had drummers, you had bass players, you had pianists, you had guitarists, and you had vocalists, and maybe a couple horn players that like did most of these society gigs, right? And so we all knew each other. We were all constantly in this kind of small, close-knit world.
Circle jerk.
And they were all in the same gigs that I was. They were all in the same proximity that I was.
But I'm better.
But I was the person who, on breaks, instead of wanting to go outside and smoke cigarettes with the other musicians, or instead of wanting to go hang out in the safe, comfortable, shadowy places with the catering crew and the bar staff, and I'm not denigrating those people.
Yes, you are.
I was like in the room. I was like mingling. I was like on the edge of like even being inappropriate. Going, hey, I know I'm just the piano player, but like, would you mind? Do you have any tips for a young, hungry person that's just trying to make it in a world that seems kind of crazy? Like, clearly you've done well for yourself. And I would pretty boldly go in there. And I look back at that time and I realize
cool, bro.
My life experience of never having successfully assimilated into a group of like people. The fact that that had never worked for me.
Oh, okay. So the lesson is just attach yourself to people. This is like a self-help tip they always give. Like, surround yourself with millionaires and you'll become the 6th millionaire. If there's 5 millionaires in the room, you'll become the 6th because you just learned from you just osmosisly learn from. You pick up the knowledge just by eating bread with them in the same room. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, so he's basically saying these bartenders wanted to go smoke cigarettes outside, those freaking losers. I just interrupted everyone's meal and asked for advice. Okay.
It had never been rewarding or gratifying for me. It meant that there was no magnetism in those situations pulling me outside to be like, oh, you're a musician, and on the breaks, the musicians go outside and hang out with the other musicians. Yeah. I had never fit in before, so I wasn't going to start trying then. So I'm like, I'm here. I'm going to go to the people that have the lives that I would want to have, and I'm going to try to get to know them. And
I'm going to go to the people who have money and try to use them as opposed to building actual relationships with people, of a similar interest to me. That tracks. Cool.
There were musicians that resented me. They would actually say, why do you think you're better than us? Why are you trying so hard? Why are you, and they would grumble. It was almost like they were a little bit challenged by the fact that I was more interested in sometimes, not always, but sometimes being in the room than being, back in the driveway with them behind.
Being a good person and, not trying to suck someone's what to get ahead. But, yeah. It's an internal issue with them, for sure.
So that they actually had like servants' quarters. I mean, these houses, it was like Downton Abbey, right? And so I look back and I'm like, man, I got the gold because I was in the hills and I dug for the gold.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lesson is like, there's a lot of people that find themselves in proximity to opportunity, but you actually have to put yourself out there to go dig for it.
Wow. I love that. Like part of the benefit of.
I love that. Yeah, that's what Rachel did to me, and I really loved being on the receiving end of that being used for money. I totally relate, and I think that's great. Also, I wanted to tell you.
I love you.
It makes you laugh every time. It sounds like he's really here in the room with us.
Not having fit in, as it were, was permission to not care about fitting in a situation where there was opportunity on the table. Ooh, That's a good one. All right. So there's obviously this like stretch of time from 2008 to 2019. Talk a little bit about that transition period from pianist to entrepreneur.
Sure. So bear in mind, in 2008, I was having my 11th failed venture.
Wow.
So it wasn't like, oh, in 2008, I just decided to become an entrepreneur. No, I mean, I had actually tried to start my first thing right when I dropped out of high school when I was 16. I took a little bit of money that my parents had set aside for college. And since at that point, I didn't actually think I was going to go to college because I'm a high school dropout. Clearly college isn't in my future. I took that money and I hired the networking IT guy at my dad's office who claimed to be
His dad's office? Does his dad own the office, or is your dad a worker at the office? I hired the guy at my dad's office for $1 because my dad told him that he would get fired if he didn't help me. So basically I'm a celebrity now, and I learned so much. And also, okay, so it didn't help you at all. So in 2008, so I don't know what year he was doing these pianist networking moments, but I guess it didn't work if you had 11 missed opportunities, bad jobs that are bad companies. And where's all this money coming from in the in-between time? I guess we're going to find out. Okay, I'm back invested in the podcast.
Computer programmer, and he was going to build me this website that did some magic trick in 1990, was that 95, I think?
Wow.
And, that was back when I had a dial-up internet that was like, and so anyway, I had this, and there was sometimes a few years would go by because I would need to save up another 10 grand to go try the next thing or whatever, because I was literally living off tip money.
Yeah.
But
From what?
But I had 11 consecutive failures, and if somebody wants to know about all 11, they can read my book. But that was number 11, right? And so
Don't make me, please. I won't be able to keep my eyes open.
So, is there a saying that 12th time is the charm? There probably isn't, but I'm going to coin it because, and the last failure was the big one, right? That was the $500,000 in debt. So 2008, I launched this affiliate marketing business. I, built a blog, started making some YouTube videos, started writing. It was different back then. You would publish what are called e-zine articles, like e-zines or magazines, but electronic magazines, e-zine articles. Just a whole different world back then. There were you would create these things called Squidoo lenses, which is Seth Godin created this platform called Squidoo in 2006.
Oh yeah, Squidoo.
And so I was doing all this, internet nerdy.
Squidoo really took off. Ooh, okay. We're gonna continue. His Skidoo, he was really popular in Skidoo.
Stuff, and I just had a knack for it. And so that was my first win, and I did that for 5 years. I kind of escalated from one offer to the next, where I would go to a company that had a product or service, but they needed customers, and I knew how to go create content that would acquire customers, and they would pay me commissions, right? So for 5 years I did that, and that was a total turnaround for my life. By the end of those 5 years, well, I mean, I had spent, when I started, I was broke living in Houston, and then I did that for a year and a half. I paid off my debt. Then I moved to Montana. I lived in Montana for 6 months, and I skied every day and just checked my internet ads at night. And then I moved to New York City. I lived in New York City for a year and lived in Tribeca and ate fancy food and felt more alone than I've ever been, even though I was surrounded by millions of people, because New York is that kind of place. And then I met a girl, and I moved out to you. And it's so cool. Once you free yourself, you just go where you can live in a van and make $1 million a year. It's incredible.
He just said how everything was boring and he's sad, he was lonely. He's like, this is so cool. I get to be lonely in New York. Eat fancy dinners with the other rich people who I will associate only with. If you are lower than me, don't come near me. I don't have time. I don't have time to be in the servants' quarters. How dare you? I am an online marketer. Can't be hanging out with musicians in the driveway. Disgust me. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of had this kind of bohemian.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. That's his contribution. Yeah.
In life. So I went out to Utah, met a girl, went out to Utah, who's now my wife. That's now where I live. She had 3 kids. She was a single mom with 3 kids. fell in love with the whole package, the wife and the kids. Ended up settling down and it took a few years because Utah's family laws are slow and they're not too trusting of outsiders, but it took a few years. I was able to adopt the kids, and now they're.
Where are they? What is he, on the LDS compound? They don't like outsiders in Utah? That's a pretty bold statement. Is Warren Jeffs the guy who's got to sign off in this marriage? What's going on? How old is this woman? Sounds like she's 12.
My kids, and then we added a fourth kid. And so anyway, I settled in Utah 2011, 2012, started a digital agency. I basically said, okay, I know how to get customers. Who else wants to get customers? Oh, every business in the world wants to get customers. So maybe I could sell my customer acquisition services to businesses, and ended up starting an agency. And from 2013 to 2018, ran an agency called Zurley that did, we actually had over 10,000 small and medium-sized business clients. We built a sales floor, got up to about 60 people, made the Inc. 5000 list twice, and, did about a little over $30 million in revenue in those 2 years. And now I was a solo owner operator bringing home, 20 to 30% margins. So
yeah,
dude, I'm killing it. I'm good. And then I sell the agency. 2018, I sold the list to a software company, had a multiple 7-figure exit. And I was just like, holy crap. I should just, what do I do? Where do I go from here? And it was either
multiple 7-figure exit. What is multiple 7 figures? 20 million? No, that's 8 figures. Multiple 7 figures. 2 million, I guess. Okay.
I either ride off into the sunset, never to be heard from again, and I was starting to see what was happening in the world, right? Like Gary Vee had been dripping on me for 10 years, and there were some newer guys that were going into this
Gary Vee was dripping on me? Excuse me, sir? Gary Vee has some interesting ideas. Not interesting, bad ideas, but I don't think he drips on anybody.
One of them, the world was starting to show me that there's an opportunity for someone with a message and a heart to serve to actually go out and do some real good. And there's a huge need for people, because fundamentally, and I'll say this and this is like my stump speech moment, and then I'll shut up so you can
good
talk.
You need not shut up.
Well, I appreciate that. But we have been educated for a world.
I need to soundbite that. You need not shut up. That's what I'm going to play when I feel like I've talked too long.
That no longer exists. And we now find ourselves living in a world for which there is no formal education. And if somebody said, what is it that Jeff is trying to solve in the world? That is it. I am trying to put together formal education for the world that is and is becoming, and does not have legacy dead man walking roots in a world that no longer exists, and that is fast revealing itself through economic catastrophe.
It's so many things. Number one, I had an update with the person who helps me with my finances, and I was looking in the accounts, and I've got 529s for my kids, and they're growing over time. But I also find myself, as I see those numbers, wondering, are we actually going to need money for traditional college education? By Noah's 5, I don't know what college looks like 15, 12, 13 years from now.
She can just join Growth Day, and she can just take courses now, and she can rewatch Tea Time with Noah to learn everything she's going to need to know. I think she's good. Just give her the money to become a pianist or something, a networker.
Possible to say, because everything you just said is a thing that I've had many a conversation about in the last 5 years, because it's changed so dramatically. The access to information, the quality of the access of information, and maybe your most important point, the actual application of what's being taught online relative to some of what maybe is a more antiquated approach historically.
Tell me how, you can sell marketing, you can sell Google ads, you can make Facebook ads from anywhere, from a van in Utah, yes. Can you become a doctor? No. Can you, I guess, you could go to a trade school to become an electrician, or, what's it called when you go up the pole? I want to say light worker, but that's not it. That's a woo-woo term. You're a utility pole worker. You need to go to some formal education. You cannot learn that online with no practice. Can you be a firefighter? Can you be a police officer? No, you need some sort of training, physical training, in-person training most likely for some of those jobs, or a chef or something. Like, yeah, there's a limit. There's definitely big limits on online education. Now, if you're Dave and you have literally nothing to learn because what you're teaching is believe in yourself, because butterflies, were always meant to be. Butterflies come out of caterpillars, and they're going to become who they were meant to become. Like, if that's your lesson, then yeah, you could do that on Facebook. You could do that on an online platform, but that's not the majority of the world. And this guy, he seems like a grifter and a jumper from one thing to the next just to make money. Okay, he doesn't really have a passion, from what it seems, about one industry or one, thing that he likes. It's just like, whatever makes money, I'll just do it. I don't care. Like, that's what it seems like to me, just based on his cadence and speech patterns. But I think we're going to need college or some form of education. I think like going to get a degree that's not really applicable probably is not worth it anymore. If you're going to like a private university and you're going to study, French or something, I don't know, maybe that's not worth it, or English or literature or something. You want to go and get more of a specialized thing, or maybe there is a different program that comes up 10 years from now that teaches those types of things. But I still think there's need for education that's not taught by scammers, that has some sort of credentialing system. That's my 2 cents on college.
Like, it's all about...
And never forget that.
I love you.
Okay.
I am curious, though, like, just to go back to 11 times of failure to 12th time being the hit. Do you think there's something, because I mean, there's got to be someone who's listening right now, their business is struggling, they're starting to believe maybe a story that they're not cut out for entrepreneurship, or they're not cut out to have a business or lead a business. I'm sure there were doubts that come in the midst of 11 things not working, but do you think there's just something inside of you that naturally was like, I'm just going to keep getting back up? Was there what was the drive? Because if you find yourself feeling stuck in failure, or some stories around why the failure can be attributed to you, I'm curious if there's a hack.
Insatiable greed.
Can afford people.
Well, I think I have a really different definition and perspective on failure, I think, than most people. We live in a world like if it had been like 19th century Russia, where if you start a business and you end up with more debt than you can pay, they haul you to Siberia and they put you in a labor camp for 7 years and you probably die. I might have had a different attitude. I might have been like, okay, I'm not going to take that risk 11 times on going insolvent, right? We don't live in that world. Nobody goes.
Oh, so he went bankrupt 11 times, or he's gone bankrupt. He went insolvent. That's kind of using the system, don't you think? He didn't say that, but he did use the word insolvent, which is kind of associated with bankruptcy. That's kind of interesting. I wonder how many times he went bankrupt, or if he did, because that's not good business.
Debtor's prison. Like, maybe they'll cancel your credit cards. Maybe, maybe don't put your house up for collateral, but hell, even if they do, like, there's subsidized housing. They're like, nobody rock bottom in America. Like, the vast majority of human beings that have ever lived would love to be at rock bottom in 21st century America. Like, I wasn't going to die. I wasn't going to starve. And I, frankly, I didn't have kids. So, but honestly, and I'll say this though, I do think I
wasn't going to starve. My parents own a business that makes lots of money, and I am so unique in my experiences. It's like, yeah, people do starve and die because they don't have jobs all the time. It's probably especially in Russia. And I don't know, did they have capitalism in Russia in the 19th century? Is that even a relevant story or even historically accurate in any way? I doubt it. Okay. And just to break up this weird video podcast, let's play a song.
Why do you follow me if you don't already own my book?
Thank you for the request. Wait, where did it go? Someone requested that. I can't find it. Thank you. Thank you, and
I love you. I will slowly buy you a boat.
okay, we're gonna continue now.
I don't want to be as so reductive as to say, oh, well, it was easy because I didn't have kids. Because even since I've had kids, I have taken some sort of tightrope-esque risks where there was no net, and I did it, and it was like, because you just sort of develop this muscle of like, it's gonna be okay. It really is. And I think the fact, but if you think about what is it that most people are really worried about in terms of they're afraid to fail in the modern world, I don't think most people are actually afraid that they're going to end up dead.
I do.
Or that they're even going to end up destitute, because you can always just go get at least a menial job to pay some bills, right? They're actually afraid of losing status. They're afraid of being embarrassed. They're afraid of being ostracized. They're afraid of working so hard, losing what they've worked so hard for, which is just a sunk cost fallacy applied to life. They're afraid of, being judged or shamed. And it's like, I already did all that crap. I spent my whole life dealing with all that. I never fit in. I was always different. I was always judged. I always felt shame. I'd already unpacked all that stuff and processed through it. So what did I really have to be afraid of? And I think that's what it was. It's not that I overcame so much fear 11 different times or 12 different times. It's that I had actually redefined the meaning I attached to the potential consequence of failure, to where it actually wasn't as hard for me as it is for other people.
Huh? I didn't catch any of that. I mean, I caught it, but I didn't comprehend it or devour it, digest it in any way. Yeah, he's very out of touch. No one thinks you're gonna be destitute because you could just get subsidized housing. You could just buy subsidized housing, you dumb idiot. You should take 11 risks on businesses to sell online product. Oh, we didn't think of that. Oh my gosh, he's so right. He's so right. We should just all subsidize housing. Then we can take more entrepreneurial risks. This guy's a liberal, I can tell. I'm all for it. I'm on board with you, bro. Let's make housing costs lower so we can all be business boss babes. Instead of people who have this mysterious cash drawer that just never ends 25 times. I could just get some menial job. Cool. I'm glad you can get that. Not everyone can. Okay, what ad do you think is coming next? Sensodyne? Ovaltine?
Oh, I love that sound. It's going to make me smile. That's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one person online together.com, pursuing something like this, and that's having... I know you talk on mindset. I talk on mindset. Like, there's something that is a prerequisite to even pursuing something like this, and that's having the right mindset. I wonder if...
It's having the right parents, having the right career path is the prerequisite. Or spouse, in Rachel's case.
Was there a time when you did not yet totally possess this, or were you always someone who was growth mindset, sees failure as information?
No. So I spent from preschool to 16 years old wanting, I mean, this is a hard thing to say, and I don't think I've ever said this. I don't know why I'm saying it now, but I spent from 3 to 16 with so much shame that as I started to develop the ability to have really strong opinions that I could cling to, like when you're 4, however passionate you feel about something, like 20 minutes later, you forgot, right? But when you're 14, you can really dig into how you feel.
Yeah. And
as soon as I was old enough to dig into how I felt, I had a vein of hatred for my parents because I felt that they had wronged me by having me. I was like, you knew that you had a genetic disorder. You knew that you had plump genes. So why were you so cruel as to give birth to a pudgy, damaged child
Jesus.
and forced him to live in this world. And I hated him for that for a while. Like that's how dark it was. And
Oh God.
and I had amazing parents. They were the most magical, beautiful people. And I don't put them on a pedestal. They were flawed like everyone else, but I had beautiful parents that now I
It did not sound like you put them on a pedestal there, sir. It sounded like a pretty surprising admission, and I applaud the candidness, but I'm hoping that there's some sort of like coming to realization moment that that's a little harsh. Yikes.
hear myself say that, and it actually hurts to say that. But that was how I processed my environment and my reality at certain times in my childhood. So no, I was not always this go-getter of a person. I went into some dark holes. But when I was 16 years old, I went on this backpacking trip for the summer, like one of those it wasn't Outward Bound, it was called Wilderness Ventures, but like one of those go out in the woods and find yourself adolescent experiential things, right? And
so he was in the troubled teen industry. Okay. Maybe this is where he got the idea of like rebelling. I don't know. Usually that you don't end up liking your parents much after you come back after that. So maybe that's where that came from. But yikes. Plump jeans. Dave and him probably have some things to talk about off pod about their parents and the hatred for their parents. Yikes. Oh my God. I'm glad everyone in the chat agrees that was a pretty psychotic change. But you know what? The liveliness of the chat.
It's giving me life.
It is. Okay. Let's see this. Like I said, I haven't listened to this yet. This is the first time I'm hearing this too. So this is all. I don't know if it gets better, worse, stays the same. We're gonna find out.
I had the most amazing experience being around a completely new set of people. And for whatever reason, it just played out differently than it had when I was at home in my life for the first 16 years. And they liked me. They thought I was funny. They thought I was interesting. I played the guitar and somebody had one and they wanted to hear me sing songs. And it was like, oh my gosh, if you change your environment,
oh my gosh,
you can change your experience of life. And you can literally, but I was a completely different person that summer than I had ever been prior. And when I went home, I was addicted. I was addicted to how it could feel to not be trying so hard to fit in. Because when I had been on that trip, I don't know, I think it's because it was who gets sent on those kinds of trips, right? It's all the misfit kids. It's literally the kids that don't fit, the misfits, right? Yeah. And in a group of misfits, I was like right at home. And so when I went home, I had this completely different perspective on what it means to be so different, where it was like suddenly something to lean into. That's when I decided, hey, I'm going to run with this music thing. Screw this school bit. I went to a school where they dressed us in uniforms, khaki pants and white collared shirts. I remember going back to school. And at that point I had been expelled. So it was like my friends going to school. And I'm like, you guys look like dorky.
He said that he dropped out because he had a dream to pursue being a pianist. And now, come to find out, most likely he was at private school because uniforms, I mean, some uniforms are public, but I beg to, given like what he's said so far, his parents afford a wilderness, behavioral treatment, essentially, wilderness camp, which are controversial. I don't really support them at all. I don't know how bad his was. He seems to have liked it, so I don't know. But now you're saying you got expelled? So that's not the same inspirational story of believing in yourself and following your dreams. I've been misled, Jeff.
Robots. I'm glad I got kicked out, And everything changed that summer. And ever since then, I've just been leaning into being different and celebrating my weird, quirky, idiosyncratic existence and trying to make the most of it and realizing that the more I do that, the more it becomes a superpower. And the more, honestly, the world starts to feel like a game that just gets easier and easier with more practice.
I know so much of what you did then next was inside of the digital space and this new digital.
Guys, it was inside of the digital space. Not just in the digital space. It was inside of. different.
Place for someone who maybe doesn't really understand the seismic shifts in the emergence of internet and everything that it has created for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. How do you think about digital real estate? What do you think of when you think of the way that we ought to be considering the opportunity that exists for anyone who has any talent and is interested in connecting to others with that?
So this is what I tell people. Like, I'll answer the question through the lens that probably reaches the widest segment of people out there, which is...
I can't wait. All right, this is the big moment. Do I have a drum roll? No. Okay, this is the big moment, guys. This is the biggest advice for all of us.
What should I do to make more money in the modern world? Like, I get that question 20 times a day on social media, right? And some of them are like, hey, I have, $300,000 in my 401k and I don't know what to do. And some people are like, hey, I live with my parents and I have, I make minimum wage and I don't know what to do. And some people are like, hey, my grandma died and I have 20 grand and I don't know what to do. But it's always the same. Like, I have blank and I don't know what to do. So this is how I divide the world. If you have $100,000 or more, maybe it's more than that now. Maybe it's a couple $100,000 or more. You can probably make a pretty good go for yourself in real estate, being like some sort of real estate investor or developer.
Wow. This is late-breaking information, everybody. Real estate is an investment that you can make if you have $100,000. And usually it's a pretty safe bet because you can live in the house in case the markets go awry. And in case we have some sort of issue or recession again, you can live in the home. So this is mind-blowing. This guy needs to be on the top entrepreneur list of 2022 because this is insanity that we've learned this information. Thanks, Sarah. Welcome. Thanks for the sub. Okay, I just wanted to get that in. This is very private. It's very secret. Real estate, okay?
Right? Like maybe you use it as a down payment to get $1 million commercial loan, or maybe you use it to buy some rental houses and develop some Airbnbs. Like, that's fine. If you have a couple $100,000 or more, I actually think the physical world has some amazing opportunities, right? Especially in the next few years.
This is Dave's question. In the new digital world, what advice do you give? Well, my modern day advice is to invest in real estate. Okay, bro, that is not digital nor new advice. And not applicable or, he said if you have $100,000 or more, which, doesn't apply to, I would imagine, a vast majority of people. And especially people searching on the internet how to make money probably are not in that bracket, I would imagine.
What I think is coming, but that's a whole other conversation. But if you're in that tweener group where it's like, I'm not dead broke, but I have enough money that I don't really feel financially confident. The digital world, like for a $12 domain and a, $100, $200 a month software subscription to a funnel builder and some courses you can go get from Entra or a host of other places, you can learn a skill set that allows you to go build any number of types of businesses. You can be in the knowledge business and sell what you know, which is effectively what I do, effectively what you do, right? You can become an influencer or a content creator. You can start an agency.
Yeah, that's not working out for Dave too well. His influencer life is not working out. It's not a success story at this point. So I won't use him as an example of what to do.
I did. You can become a referral marketer like I did. You can, become what I actually call a digital real estate developer, which is building properties that are optimized, like digital properties, not physical properties, right? That are optimized to, in real estate, they say it's location, 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 right? Well,
what is a digital property? Please go on to explain what this means.
On the internet, you can actually create your own location based on how you build and optimize your digital property so that the location becomes first page of the Google search engine, right? Or first page of the YouTube search results. You can literally you can build not just the...
I own real estate, everybody. I didn't know. I thought I was a renter, but really I own. Rachel Hollis is when you type it in on YouTube. So without even trying, I became a mogul myself, a digital real estate. Cool.
Sure, but the location that the structure exists upon, once you know how it works. And you can become a digital real estate developer. Now, is it some internet gimmicky, get rich quick thing like you see people talk about internet marketing. No, not at all.
100%.
But give yourself a few years and, maybe 4 or 5 figure a year development budget. 5 years from now, I can tell you how to be making 7 figures plus in passive income. Like this opportunity is there for anyone, almost irregardless of their financial situation, unless they're so broke that they can't even afford a funnel builder. They can't even afford email software.
So scam people is the advice. Put your money on a funnel builder to get people who don't know what the heck they're doing to pay money for something that you may or may not understand. Okay, that tracks.
And a lot of what Entra's done is try to build products that lower the barrier to entry. But I mean, there is a point where you're like, you shouldn't even be trying to build a business. You should just be trying to get a job.
What if this guy doesn't actually have any money and he's been playing The Sims, but he doesn't understand that The Sims does not translate and his parents are just putting money in his bank account every month? And he's like, yo, I am an entrepreneur. I am a digital real estate mogul as well as Kia. And I am just killing it. And in reality, his parents have just been funding his apartments, and his ex-wife or whatever is also just like, oh God, just let him. He's just on the internet all day playing The Sims. He thinks he's doing something, but it keeps him from talking to me. So I just let him think that this is real. And, he's been buying all these fish tanks, in The Sims for the last 10 years. I don't know. I'm not sure. He puts them in the pool and takes away the ladder. He something's wrong with him, but we just let him be because he's our little Jeffy, our little Jeff. He's just playing this. He's thinks he's a billionaire, but it's just Sims money. Yeah, Rosebud. He's like, I got the hack for you. It's Rosebud. No one's talking about this. Doctors are gonna hate you for knowing this secret. Rosebud. That's what I think. That makes more sense than what he's actually saying because he's all over the place and has not said one thing.
Pays better.
He doesn't actually know how to play the piano. The piano is actually set to the keyboard's set to autoplay. This guy has no skills whatsoever. He's just his parents felt so bad because he accused them of ruining his life by birthing him. So they just set up his whole future for him. Okay, we're going to put this auto piano thing. We're going to send him to our friends' parties. He'll think he's networking. He's not. He's just, he doesn't, the people that are working don't understand why he's there because he can't play a piano. So they don't want to associate with him. So he's just going to walk around the party and ask for advice. And then when he gets older, we're just going to, set up The Sims for him. This is all his parents feeling the guilt because he yelled at them one time and said, you're fat and forced me to be born. And now they're trying to recover their lifestyle since then. Okay, I like that theory. That's a good theory. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for going on that thread with me.
And for those people, I say you gotta figure out how to get into either sales, because nobody even cares if you have a high school diploma if you can sell, or if you're like, no, I'm too introverted, I'm too shy, I have a speech impediment, I can't do sales. Whatever limitation you want to apply to yourself, at least get into direct response marketing. Learn to write sales copy. Learn to do video editing. Learn to build sales funnel. There's always a skill set you can learn.
Let me tell you from experience, you ain't gonna be 7-figure earner as a video editor. No way, Jose. Nope, sorry, ain't happening. Nope.
Irregardless of what level you're at socioeconomically, that creates massive opportunity. And I think what's so cool about the digital economy is it invalidates the idea that it takes money to make money.
It takes time and some developed mastery. I mean, it does take
Dave.
work. But other than that,
It doesn't take money. That's not Dave's voice. It could be. It doesn't take money to make money. However, I'm saving for my children. They all have 401ks I put aside for them because I know that they need a safe start, a good start when they get out. Okay, then don't save any money for your kids. Just teach them the lessons. Prove it, because that's bullshit. Everyone knows you need some money to make money. It's 20 million times harder to accomplish any goal when you start from zero. That's just the truth. It sucks, but it's the truth. I hear you, brother. You don't need money to make money. But if you got $100,000, you better put it in real estate, because that's my advice. Shut up.
Yeah, the bar is pretty low. The thing that I think I've probably run up against the most in my pursuit in this digital economy has been some limiting beliefs around my ability to comprehend the intricacies of what you have, especially in the agency world, what you were working on with search engine optimization or anything inside of funnel building. I've relied on other people. They've been great. But in some ways, not teaching myself to fish has made me, still believe this thing that oh man, it's complicated technology. I assume that that's part of what Entree hopes to solve, is the ability to reduce the bar of getting in if you find yourself overwhelmed or confused on how you might pursue everything that exists for the taking for those that are willing to push past that fear.
Yeah.
And Entree, his company, it's just he was at a restaurant one time, and he was the parents are like, "What do you want to eat, Jeff?" And he's like, chicken nuggets. And they're like, no, you need to look over here in this section. That's not going to be enough for you, Jeff. You need more sustenance. You're a grown-up now. He's like, entree. And they're like, okay, yeah, okay. And that's what he thinks he's logging onto every day. Just that menu that one time he pointed to while he was at the restaurant. He's like, yeah, entree. I started that. That's my company. This is all becoming very clear very quickly.
Absolutely is. And I think there's a couple ways you do that. One is you just build tools that simplify the execution, right? We built some software that's called Entrosoft that allows you to send emails, send text messages, do CRM, manage customer relationships, build funnels, and it just makes it a little bit easier than other solutions, and it puts a little more under the same umbrella, right? So that's one way. But I think the real way that you do it is if you look at, the entire sort of nascent digital economy skill set, right? Which is building funnels, maybe writing copy, although some would argue that AI is going to make that irrelevant anyways, unless you're really elite. Doing, content creation, doing video. I believe that being on video, being comfortable doing what you and I are doing right now is a must.
Sir, we're on a podcast. Nothing is recording you, most likely. Maybe they're on Zoom. But there is no camera here. Yeah, we're on video. Yeah, the video is it's in the walls. It records me at all times. I'm creating video. It's amazing. It's actually a security camera his parents have installed in his house to watch him. Monitor him playing Sims. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to the listening.
Skill set. There's some stuff, but if you look at this world, I think the things you need to do are pretty obvious, but the education on how to do them is very, very nebulous. It's very ill-formed. There's gurus out there that teach you how to do some of this stuff, but there's no Stanford of how to build a business on the internet, right? There's no level of academic rigor and
Why would you want that? You just said 5 seconds ago that's obsolete. You don't need it anymore. And now we're like, well, we don't have it. We need it.
Pedagogical best practices and so at Entre, we have 4 PhDs on staff. And our director of products and curriculum is somebody that just came over from the 6th largest university system in the country, and she's been there for 25 years building curriculum, doing curriculum design and leadership development. So we're actually building curriculum that, look, if MIT can teach people how to build a rocket ship, we can teach people how to build a sales funnel.
Yeah.
But nobody's actually approached it with.
Who needs a sales funnel? Creating a sales funnel for what? If you don't have you got to start the business first before you need a sales funnel to sell something.
Real academic rigor. It's just kind of been this slapdash thing of Joe, the e-com guru did it, and he shot a 9-video boot camp, and I went through it, and I should be able to do it too. Well, no, it's this is a real skill set. It takes more than that. But having competency evaluations, having benchmarks and achievement milestones, and real organized and structured curriculum And the other thing about the internet has like done a number on people's brain.
Exactly. Like we don't need college, but we have 3 PhDs on staff. College is useless. These titles are totally irrelevant. We have 3 PhDs on our staff. It's like, sounds like it's relevant now all of a sudden, Jeff.
And their expectations, partly because it shortened our attention spans in general, but partly because it's completely eroded the concept of delayed gratification. It's like, everything happens so fast. I bought a course, I need to have a result in 30 days. Well, nobody shows up on their first day at Harvard and is like, hey, I better have a 6-figure job in 30 days or else this was a failure.
Yeah, but when the sales copy says, become a millionaire in 30 days, buy this course and we'll teach you how via the digital real estate space, then you expect it because that's what you're promising, most likely. Because why else would I buy this stupid course?
You know, why don't you give yourself a year? Why don't you give yourself 5 years? We're willing to do that for school. We're willing to borrow.
Yeah, because your loans are deferred and you don't have to pay them back until you're done with the program. These stupid courses, you give yourself 5 years. Where do you get the money to afford to live and develop this for 5 years? That's the key. Not everyone's got piano college funds from their parents. God.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to a school knowing it's going to take us an average of 21 years to pay back our student debt before we actually get to start keeping all the money we're earning. And there's still a 95% statistical probability that we're never going to have enough saved up to comfortably retire. We sign up for that deal all day long, but we won't actually give an online program 2 years to see if it works.
Oh, come on.
Shut up, Dave. I had a point, but that Dave bite threw me off. I'm going to go back 15 seconds. So Dave now is going to appreciate no college. He went to Pepperdine University. Like, Dave's not a college dropout by any stretch of the imagination. So, and college is more than that too. Like, there's a whole experience with going. You get to go and interact with people. There's a campus. There's physical things you get to use. There's a gym. There's memories to be made. Better than sitting at your computer and taking a chance on some guy named Jeff, who we don't even know what he does for a living, and, you know, most likely is living in a simulation of some sort. Yeah, I think saying, oh, you don't even give a course 2 years to work, it's like, yeah, you shouldn't, most likely. Go to college. It's a better bet. It's accredited. It's going to get you a lot farther in life.
Start keeping all the money we're earning. And there's still a 95% statistical probability that we're never going to have enough saved up to comfortably retire. We sign up for that deal all day long, but we won't actually give an online program 2 years to see if it works.
Oh, come on. Could not agree more. There's so much to be like deconstructed or challenged with conventional teaching and some of the paradigm that we've just fallen into as the way things are supposed to be or always are. Student debt is one of those crazy things, the idea of signing up for something to pay off for the next 20 years after.
Yeah, it's so crazy that you didn't even experience it, Dave, and your kids aren't going to experience it either. So what do you have to contribute to this conversation? I mean, you can have your opinion all day, but as someone who hasn't had to deal with that, now you're going to shit on school? It's like, no thanks.
Out of school.
See, by the way, it's that and taxes are the only 2 debts you can't bankrupt out of either.
This guy's gotta have gone bankrupt like several times is what it sounds like. He's like, yeah, there's this thing called free money. All you do is just like buy domain names and then you sit in your parents' basement and you try to make it work and it doesn't and you fail 12 times. You just bankrupt yourself every time. Just do that. Just use the government's money and subsidize your housing, dummies. Okay. I'll do that, Jeff. Okay, now who's going to be the sponsor of this one? I'm going to say Liquid IV will be the sponsor of this one. Let's see.
So I was recently introduced to this company called Thrive Market that Heidi had been using with her family, and now because I'm using it with mine, I want
Ooh, they have separate families now? They're not one big old family? Interesting.
to introduce it to you. Thrive Market is to sustainable with Thrive. If you want to go with thrive.com/gift worth more than $50, want to step.com/rise together.
all he's done to cut in between, instead of putting some sort of a new cut, like a different little jingle in between to recognize that it's an ad, he's just cut the intro song at the most no fade out. It's a little thing. It's just like a little fade would just help this process a little bit.
Hopefully there's someone here that's had this thing beaten in their heart and they're looking for some sign to want to step toward starting a business, being brave enough to put themselves out there. And, like I would say, yeah, you should do it and be prepared for seeing the failures that will inevitably, guaranteed, they're going to happen as the gift of what this business of yours is meant to become. I'm curious what advice you might give to someone who feels like they ought to do it but are scared to try.
Again, everybody's situation is different, but assuming you're not in a place where, I think I actually just want to kind of like nip something in the bud. If you're in a place where you're like, hey, I got 90 days to figure out how to pay my mortgage or else I'm going to lose my house, don't start a business.
Yeah.
That's not your answer.
No shit.
Right? Like that is not the Hail Mary you want to throw. And so that, setting that aside, which unfortunately is so much of the predatory dynamic of the internet, is these ridiculous promises. But like if you're somebody that has at least a reasonably stable foundation from which you're not just going, hey, how do I make a quick buck? But you're like, hey, how do I do more fulfilling work with my life where I make the same or better money and I do it in a way that I...
Don't even tell me that creating sales funnels for businesses is fulfilling in any way. Don't even. He said earlier he's a servant leader or some shit. Like, I have a servant's heart. What are you, a priest? Or you become a nun all of a sudden? Like, creating sales funnels and making millions of dollars is some sort of a sacrifice that you've made? Okay.
I enjoy or
that.
get more fulfillment from, right? And then here's what I would say. Instead of starting a business or thinking of a business that is like we have this pass-fail mindset, like this very binary mindset that comes from education, right? Instead of thinking about your business as a pass-fail test, think about who can I passionately serve in the world based on something that I have some knowledge around and enough real life experience around that I have passion and conviction. Because that isn't something that it is like fundamentally impossible to fail at if you try. Like you can go online and serve and deliver value and help someone unless you're lying, unless you're intentionally misdirecting them. Like just go be a person of value who wants to help and let the business grow organically from that, because then there's no way to fail. There is no fail, the term failure. So when you're in that business, there's no conceptual word or concept for failure if you're just trying to serve people.
I have a great uncle who was a music theory teacher, loves music, but like also loves the like.
Dave is so boring. Everything he adds to this conversation makes it even less interesting. I had a cousin once who was a librarian, and she taught me that sometimes you just need to quiet your mind and your voice while you're at the library. It's like, thanks, Dave. Thanks for your contribution. Okay, his great uncle was a music theory teacher. Okay, that's very on brand for Dave.
Nuts and bolts behind the music, and it loves it. And we were hanging out not terribly long ago, and I was asking about like his biggest disappointment, like were there any regrets or bigger disappointments? And he's older, maybe 75, 80, and he started to get really emotional.
You don't know the 5-year difference? You should probably know that a little bit. It's like 77 or 78, something like that. Okay, 75 or 80? That's a little big of a jump.
About this job that he had as a teacher that he ended up, because of recession or cutbacks or something, the job was reduced and he was no longer needed. And it was years ago, but like this is a thing, like it's just the thing that, man, life was the best when I was able to serve those students with this thing that I had the most passion for in the entire world. Yeah. So then I said, do you have a YouTube account? And he said, no, what are you talking about? You know, and there is, I think, something of a block for people of a certain gender.
Dave's family hates him too. It's a mutual hate for each other. No, what are you talking about? Shut up, Dave. Go back to Disney already. God.
That there's an invitation for them to potentially jump into this digital commerce space. And I said, look, I just want you to think about it, because you still have a gift to give, and you don't think that you have a classroom. And in fact, I promise you that, you know, even if you just helped one person with music theory, it might be the thing that lights you up. So I'm slowly trying to wear him down and have him be a YouTube page creator and music theorist teacher once again. We shall see. There's something beautiful about that connection between experience and...
Dave hasn't even updated his YouTube in like months. Now he's trying to recruit others to be YouTubers. Come on.
passion for sure.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example.
He's 75 or 80 or 100 or something. How is this guy going to figure it out?
If he did that, how could he possibly fail? Like, what would failure even look like in that scenario?
Right?
Getting no views and spending his time doing something he doesn't want to do in the first place.
Failure in that scenario is not doing it.
No.
Yeah. Got to take that first step. So if someone is interested in Entra and is wanting to learn a little bit...
I thought it was called entree. I thought it was called entree. That's what he said. Now it's called Entra. Did he mispronounce it like 17 times? And now he's correcting it at the end? Okay, I'm going to go back just to hear that again.
Possibly fail. Like, what would failure even look like in that scenario?
Right?
The only failure in that scenario is not doing it.
Yeah. Got to take that first step. So if someone is interested in Entra and is wanting to learn a little bit more about the kind of service that you provide, what's the quick pitch for what problem you are hoping to solve? I think you've already said it. And how, if someone is interested, could they find out more?
So what I would invite someone to do is honestly just go to my YouTube channel. Of course, you're going to want to start with this wonderful interview I did with a gentleman named Dave Hollis.
Come on.
Posted on my YouTube channel. But
more?
no, so I put all my podcast interviews up there. I have a ton of training videos on there. I've started doing a lot of YouTube shorts to just give people really quick, bite-sized tidbits. And from there, you can really get a sense, I actually have a general philosophy, and it's a hard philosophy to execute entirely, but generally speaking, I think information should be free or very easy to access, and that all the pieces that it requires to actually help a person transform with information, that's what the investment should be invested in, right? Which is a big paradigm shift from school, where school has historically been this gated, environment of where the information is behind the paywall, right? And so I give away on my YouTube channel more than most gurus or institutions or schools or whatever. At least I try to give away more than most people charge for.
Uh-huh.
And you can go there and you can get a very real sense of what we're all about, what it is we're trying to do in the world, what kind of information we offer you, what kind of transformation we can offer you, and probably get a real sense of, hey, is this modern economy entrepreneurship, is this something that I really would like to take on? And if it is, every single video on my YouTube channel is going to have a link that you can click, takes you into download a free book, you can go into a funnel and watch a video and buy a course, and you can choose your own adventure from there.
No,
but I would just start them at my YouTube channel, which is just Jeff Lerner Official on YouTube.
So you mentioned the book. When is it coming out? What is it called? And what do you hope that a reader takes away from it?
The book, it comes out August 2nd, and I was thrilled and really sort of awestruck that an actual publisher of real books wanted to know what I had to say. It was pretty amazing, 3 years ago, I was like, by the way, I am living proof that everything we're saying works. Because 3.5 years ago, I was was that your father-in-law, or I was the great uncle or something? I was the theory guy who was like, I don't know, should I start a YouTube channel? I'm kind of nervous. That was me.
It was your grandfather or something, great uncle, whatever. Yeah, he's got lots of EQ, this guy. was listening so well. He's like, yeah, can you just finish up your dumb story about your dumb relative? I want to talk about how I hate my parents.
3.5 years ago. Now I have a book deal. I have a top 100 podcast. I have a 9-figure company. I'm at an event of art. Like, this whole thing has exploded because I just finally stopped and I just did it. Book comes out August 2nd. It's called Unlock Your Potential. And it's basically 3 books in one. It's my autobiography of how I went from being a broke jazz musician to a successful entrepreneur.
We didn't know it was jazz until right now. You buried the lead on that one.
It's a tactical guide on how to actually do a lot of the stuff we're talking about and take those initial steps to build something in the new economy. And it's also a pretty sort of high-level treatise on macroeconomics and really setting, I think, trying to recalibrate people's understanding of what's going on in the world at a high level, frankly, to scare the shit out of them. Like, this is not option. I mean, I'm not saying you got to join Entra. I'm not saying you got to build a digital business, but there is no option for most people to not make some serious and radical shifts in their life, or else retirement is going to be what it was 300 years ago, which was non-existent. Like, retirement's a relatively recent invention. It was invented in the late 19th century in Prussia. It was imported to the United States in the 20th century because it basically
This guy's a Russian spy also. He knows, he's brought up several things about Prussia and Russia and the history. Why he's very interested in this.
It's a lot of financial services and banking products that we can use to make money from people while they're working. And most people never actually achieve it, but the bankers get rich. That's literally all retirement has been. But now that we're sold on it, if you actually want to have one, you cannot rely on the system that they constructed 100 years ago. There's some new stuff you got to do. And I break down all the numbers and explain why that is.
Fascinating.
There's some new stuff you got to do. There's some new stuff you got to do. You got to buy my book to find out what the new stuff is, okay? Okay, you got to read my book, Unlock Your Potential, okay? You got to unlock your potential, and then you find out the stuff you got to do to get ahead and not go to college. Yeah. That's wise guy advice. You don't gotta go to school no more. You just gotta go to my entree. You buy an entree. You gotta buy an entree, then you'll be an entrepreneur. You get it? Actually, it's called Entra. Entra. I forgot. It's called Entra now. I changed it halfway through the podcast. Okay, we're literally still not done with this. Please, God, let's wrap it up.
So cool. I'm sure that it will be a gift to everyone who picks it up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
August 2nd, is that what you said?
August 2nd. Yes, sir. Bookstores everywhere.
August 2nd. Let's go. All right. Our last question, same question to every guest.
Wrap it
What
up.
is the one idea, one quote, one comment to take away, something that you think a listener today needs to hear that you want to impart on them before we go?
Nothing.
So I'm gonna go very, very sort of self-helpy in my answer, very personal development, not business, not tactical. Although actually it's highly tactical, but in a different way. One of my favorite quotes is Mark Twain said, the 2 most important days in a person's life, I think he said a man's life, but we'll modernize it. The 2 most important days in a person's
Jeff.
life are the day they're born and the day they figure out why. And that concept of that
Dave's gonna start crying any minute now.
awakening to our own purpose, like, why am I here, really? And I think that if most people actually take an honest look at their lives, we tend to live our lives as if the purpose is to not die. And I think that's kind of lame, honestly. Like, turtles live to not die. Armadillos live to not die. Can we, as sentient, evolved human beings, find a little higher reason to live than just to not die? Because we're like, I gotta have comfort, and I gotta have security, and I gotta have a 401k, and I gotta make sure my kids don't die, because when I die, they'll still be alive and they have my genes. And like, that's like so boring and like Old Testament, right? Like, what is this higher purpose, this higher calling?
Dave's like, the Old Testament is literally what I'm basing my entire purpose in life on, sir. That was my whole rant, was that God has chosen me to become the person who I already have become, because I've stepped into myself and I've walked through the shadow of the valley and I've become myself, who I've always been. That's Dave's whole thing. Don't insult that. on Dave's own podcast, formerly his and Rachel's.
Service to humanity, that Maslow's tip of the hierarchy, right? Like, how do we self-actualize and go do something that matters in this world, right? And that's what Twain is talking about, that second day. But the challenge is, in the absence of that, we live in a little bit of a perpetual existential crisis, right? Like, what is the point when I have not yet discovered what the point is, right? So the way that
I always find it so embarrassing when someone's like, I care deeply about the reason why I'm on this earth, and then their reason is to create sales funnels. It's like, damn, that sucks. I'm sorry that was your lot in life. That sounds pretty horrible. I'd rather just do nothing. That's better than, well, my life purpose, anointed by God, is creating sales funnels for digital marketing. Like, no thanks. I'd rather just get subsidized housing and just do nothing.
operate in the meantime. Like, I promise you, when you have your red pill moment and you know why you're on this earth, like I had 3.5 years ago, you'll never lack for motive. Like, I got COVID twice. Other than that, I haven't been sick in 3.5 years. I sleep 5 hours a night. I jump out of bed between 2:30 and 3:30 every morning on fire to go crush it, because I have a freaking mission in this world, right? And that's how you can live when you're on the other side of knowing your purpose. But until then, what are you supposed to do? And my answer...
That sounds horrible. What happened 3 years ago? First of all, what happened 3 years ago? I missed that story. Was I just not paying attention? He was telling me timelines like as if I knew this guy. He was like jumping all over the decades. Now 3 years ago is when he had this big awakening. He sleeps 5 hours a night. He'd have COVID twice, but other than that, he hasn't been sick. Well, COVID started 2 years ago, so 2.5 years ago. So you weren't sick for 1 year? Okay, that's not that big of an accomplishment. And you wake up out of bed on fire at 2 in the morning? No, I don't want this life, sir. If this is my potential, I don't want it. No, thank you. God.
It's basically stoicism. It's like every day, it's stoicism, it's Buddhism, it's chopping water, it's carrying wood, it's all of the philosophies that are grounded in a consistent daily practice. Because when you do that, you actually create the stillness and the space and the clearing in your life from which your purpose can emerge. And the best way I can describe it is you make yourself the most interesting subject of study in your life. And you live every day as if it's a process of self-care and self-discovery. And most people going through life, like, I need to figure out what my purpose is. Yeah, but you're not even paying attention to yourself. You're paying attention to your job or your employer, or your family, or your kids, or this or that. But until you're the most important and interesting thing in your life, you're never going to discover why you're here. So this daily rigor of, and I call it the 3 Ps, physically, personally, and professionally, living for consistent, never-ending improving excellence, creates the stillness from which your purpose can emerge. And I actually believe that's the point. And when I wrote a book called Unlock Your Potential, and I started a podcast called Unlock Your Potential, what I'm really trying to do is empower and educate people as to the method for creating the consistency in life, where the results will be coming all along the way so that you can experience the happiness and the fulfillment that comes from progress, but ultimately so that you can reach that point of arrival where you have clarity on your purpose. And then at that point, you don't need another book. You don't need another podcast. You don't need another guru. You are the guru from that moment on. That's my advice.
That is a good word. Come on now. Jeff, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Thanks for having me on your show back then. If someone is interested in getting to know you better, follow you on the old social, what are your handles? Where do you send people?
I am Jeff Lerner official everywhere except for Twitter, because it's too many characters for their, rules or whatnot. But honestly, I really love when people find me on YouTube. I would say Instagram if you have goldfish or shorter attention span. YouTube if you have attention span greater than goldfish. Jeff Lerner official on either platform.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you took something good away from this episode. How could you not have? If you do me a favor,
I wish Dave would have to do a recap at the end of these episodes and like give you like what we talked about, you know, like have him summarize it, because I feel like he would struggle just as much as I would struggle. Like, okay, what was the point? What was the general idea of that? Like, what was the, not even the, like, you don't have to break it down much, but just give me an overview of what we were supposed to take away from that. I don't think either one of those people could determine what the fuck we just listened to. Oh man, I'm sorry. I know it's been like 6 hours of live streaming. It's making me go nutty. Oh, Rach, but not Rach, not that Rach. Thank you so much for that investment that you've made in yourself and in me.
I will slowly buy you a boat.
Okay, and I just wanted to tell you that.
I love you.
It's giving me life.
Yeah, I just thought about it. He told Noah to
Get a life.
get a life, but Heidi
It's giving me life.
is giving him life. Interesting dynamic. Thank you very much, Rach, but not Rach. Not that Rach. Not this Rach.
Rach.
Man, what a night. What a day, what a night, what a universe that we live in. Okay, here's Jeff's YouTube page. YouTube channel. The number one video he has is some dude, Evan Carmichael. I don't know who that is. He looks familiar though. Grant Cardone is the third one. So, you know, it's got to be good. And this is, what's her face? Marissa Peer, who's a psychic or something, I guess. Ooh, hold on. Okay, we're not gonna watch the whole thing, obviously, but this looks interesting just for a second.
Hey, what's up? Jeff Lerner here. And
If this guy doesn't crash the car, it's a successful video.
I want to talk about something I think is a real problem in the world we live in. The other day, somebody asked me for some advice, and I told them exactly what to do. It was a situation I'd confronted before. I had the results. Their response was so namby-pamby, I just about couldn't take it. They said, well, let me think about what you said. I'm not as extreme as you. He said, I'm not as extreme as you.
Yeah, I hope so.
And this is something my wife and I hear all the time, that we're extreme. I look around at the world and I think, you know, if this is extreme, then I don't want to be mellow. I don't want to be chill. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because pot's getting legalized everywhere and everybody just wants to like go with the flow and just, you know, mellow out, man. The problem in this world is not too much intensity. The problem in this world is lack of intensity. The problem in this world is lack of passion and commitment and dedication and willingness to do whatever it takes to have a not suck life. I'm not talking about having an extraordinary life, although I think that's the byproduct if you work hard enough. I'm talking about having a not suck life, a not fat life, a not broke life, a not depressed life, a not emotionally unstable life. That's
Okay, if anyone's emotionally unstable here, it's not us watching this. It's you recording this as you drive. And it almost looks like, I know he's got very white seats. I'm assuming it's a Tesla. But he looks like he's installed these chairs and they don't look like they fit in the car. It almost looks like people in little outfits that are behind him as like security guards. It doesn't look good. I will say, the second someone sits on that, it's over. You're never gonna get those car seats back. So he's not going as far as Rachel and Dave saying they need an extraordinary marriage. He just wants a not suck life. And you do that by click funnels, sales funnels. The secret to life is sales funnels. That's the secret.
what I'm talking about.
I like how you said not fat life too. It's like, all right, leave me alone.
Just to do that takes a certain amount of intensity. Somebody who says, I don't want to be extreme, I don't want to work too hard. This is the kind of thinking that says, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to get huge and bulky. Saying you don't want to lift weights because you don't want to get huge, that doesn't even make sense. That's based on a complete lack of understanding of how the body works. If you don't want to get huge, don't take
giant amounts of steroids. If you don't want to get osteoporosis as you get older, lift weights. Do load-bearing resistance exercise against gravity. This is the same kind of thinking that says,
this is one guy specifically he's talking to, and he just like, let me put this on YouTube. He's like really he's got a bone to pick with one specific man that said like, yeah, I don't really want to get bulky. I don't want to lift weights. I just want to do like a mix of cardio and maybe some sports. Bro, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Let's get extreme.
I don't want to rock the boat at my work because I don't want to get fired. I don't want to be disruptive. This is the Japanese proverb, the tallest nail gets the hammer. It's all BS. It's not the problem in this world. The problem is the opposite. The problem is nobody wants to be the tallest nail. Nobody wants to stand out. Nobody wants to, talk too loud. Nobody wants to get noticed. If you're not getting noticed in the world we live in, there are 7 billion other people fitting in. If you're not getting noticed, you are not going to have a great life. Fact, period, the end. You are not going to have a great life if you are not getting noticed. People say that these celebrities or these gurus or these marketers or these entrepreneurs that they overpost, they overpublish, they put too much content out there. They're too loud, they're too brash, they're too obnoxious.
Yeah.
They talk about money too much. They talk about success too much. They wear too flashy of clothes.
His head is literally going to explode out of his brain. Or his brain's going to explode out of his head.
They're getting noticed.
Yeah, he did say his parents had pudgy genes, so that seems to be a soft spot with him. No pun intended.
People that aren't doing those things, that say they want the results of those things, they want the results, they want the outcome, they want the millions of dollars, they want the big house, they want the nice life, they want the financial freedom, they want the time freedom, they want to own cash flow producing assets, they want to have passive income, they want to have the time to actually build great relationships and actually make an impact in this world and actually spend time with their kids and spend time with their spouses and build a great family. And they complain they don't have the time, so they can't do the things, and they don't have the time because they don't have the money, but then they won't do the things to get noticed, to do the work, to be excellent, to be amazing, to be extraordinary, to be better than the people around them. It's like we're afraid to offend anybody else by being excellent because they're not. And that is the way the world works. Most people are average. That's why it's called average.
Just let me live, bro.
Average equals suck. Average.
So 99% of the people who are average on this planet suck. You fatties. That's what he's saying. Apparently. God, take a breath.
Average equals lame. Average equals not cool. Average equals doesn't stand out. Average equals you probably will not like your life very much.
Rachel should marry this guy. I changed my mind. Rachel should get with this dude because they share a lot of the same motivational speech concepts.
Because most people don't. So if you want to love your life, stop worrying about standing out. In fact, start obsessing over standing out. Start wanting to stand out.
Okay, don't worry about it. Obsess over it. Okay, I was like, oh, I'm confused. Now I'm back on. Okay.
Start craving the attention. Because if you're standing out, if you're doing excellent work, if you're being bold in this world, people probably are looking at you. And they probably are hating on you. And they probably are envious of you. And they probably want to tear you down. Because it is easier for them to want to tear you down than to face the demons that keep them from wanting to rise themselves up. That's how this world works.
Yeah, he's right. I want to rise myself up.
You give somebody advice on how to improve their situation and they say, well, I don't know if it'll work for me because I'm not extreme. 10 years ago, my tax return was negative $40,000. Negative.
How does that happen? Did you steal the year before? Why would I take advice from you?
I filed a negative tax return. I was at rock bottom. I was also depressed. I was a train wreck. And it's because I was going through life in conflict. I wanted the things that come with success. I wanted the results, but I didn't want to be the person. I wanted to please other people. I didn't make that change by settling, by being afraid of standing out. I finally was able to rise out of that because I said, screw it, I'm not taking advice from other people who don't have the life that I want anymore. I'm gonna find people who have...
He he apparently never did. He said when he was 16 he took this advice. So he like went against his own advice because he said when he was 16 he was already light years ahead of us by mingling with rich people.
Ridiculously awesome, stupendous lives, and I am going to listen to what they say to the absolute exclusion of anybody else who has any suckiness in their life, because my life sucks and I'm getting advice from people whose lives suck, and that's probably not a coincidence. So I changed it. 2 years ago, I was fat. I decided I was tired of being fat. I didn't want to live fat. That was a part of my life that sucked. 12 months, I went from 22% body fat to 8% body fat while running 2 businesses and generating over $10 million in revenue and $1 million in net personal income. Do you think I did that by being mellow? Do you think I did that by not being intense and fired up and passionate and white hot every single day? Do you think I did that by smoking joints?
This guy really hates marijuana. What did marijuana do to you? I think it would probably help at this point. My God, you're gonna have a brain aneurysm.
You think I did that by hitting beers? You think I did that by watching football every Sunday? Because
hitting beers? You think I just hit beers every day? I don't hit beers. I chug them through my butt. Okay, sorry. I'm kidding. I need to go soon.
those are rich people with awesome lives doing awesome things, that have amazingness, that have greatness, that have TV contracts. So why do I want to sit on my couch staring at them, oohing and awing over how fast and how strong and how tough and how cool and how sponsored they are? Where does that get me? We had an event last week, and there were a bunch of people who were like, oh, well, football season starts. I didn't even know. It wasn't because it was Sunday and they needed to spend time with God. It wasn't because it was Sunday and they needed to spend time with their families. It was because it was Sunday and football season was starting. How much did you get paid watching that game? Oh, well, I play fantasy football. Really? That's the best use of your time? You've done the math on trading time for money. You've done the math on
Let people live.
leverage and efficiency and
If you're this mad about other people's choices, you're probably not happy with yourself, as I say this on a channel about other people's choices. But, you know, me and Jeff are one and the same, essentially.
optimization in your life and decided that fantasy football is going to make your dreams come true. Really? Really? I was working. This world does not need more potheads. This world does not need more mellow. This world does not need more chill. More take it easy, bruh. This world needs more people that are pissed off because it shouldn't have to suck to be alive. And they're going to work their asses off to make it not. And I hope you're hearing me. If you're hearing this going, man, that guy's intense, that guy's extreme, I don't want to end up like that guy, then what you're saying is, I don't want to have an awesome life, because you know what? My life is awesome. By not settling and not doing what most people do. I do not wear hand-me-down clothes in this life. Hand-me-down attitudes, hand-me-down beliefs, hand-me-down opinions. I craft everything with my own hands, including my awesome life, and you can too. But you
Does he make his own clothes? Is that what he's saying? He's a sewer? Don't tell Rachel. She will not have you on the book. Look at this screenshot. My God.
have to block out the noise. You have to stop listening to these knucklehead naysayers who don't have the life you want. They don't have the attitude you want. They don't have the disposition you want.
Is he driving on Mars? Where is he? Where is this? This looks interesting.
They don't have the bank account you want. They don't have the relationships you want. All they have is the approval that you think you want, but never, ever, ever actually fills the void. It's never enough. It never makes you complete. It never makes you whole. It just makes you average. Please, people, hear me. You have everything you need at your fingertips. Make it happen.
Sales funnel is the key. Okay, the first comment is, this is why I'm learning from you. You hit the nail on the head, 100% with you. Yay, way to be bold. Okay. Those are not my people. Oh no. Well, that's when
there is a better way to...
Sorry. When my clouds are literally taking a vacation because they're done with this stream, they're over it, that's when you know it's time to wrap it up for the night. Thanks guys, that was fun. That was really fun. That was up and my up and down, and then up again, and then down again, and that was a roller coaster of emotions for me. Thank you for watching. Choose Sadness merch is available in the link below, and if you don't want a life that is totally suck-filled and fat, then buy some merch, because, but if you want to smoke pot in your shirt, please go for it. Go for it. Support you and whatever you want to do. Don't feel, you can't do that, because you can have an extreme life while smoking pot, according to me, Kia. So yeah, that's my pitch. Those are my final thoughts. Thank you for joining me. I will keep you abreast of any rumblings of any more blockings from gurus. And it was wonderful spending this time with you. And just for shits and gigs, we'll have Dave sign us out here. Just remember, I'm rooting for you, and
I love you.
okay, everybody? I don't mean anything I just said, but, for the soundbite purposes, we will say it. Let's end with a song.
Why do you follow me if you don't already own my book?
And on that note, choose average. I see it coming in. Choose suck. Suck life.